just comment and let me know that you are indeed seeing and hearing. First person on there, Joey Davis, one of our executive producers here. I guess you can hear me because you're saying hi, Dennis. So this is what we have in mind here. Again, Greg is here, tracking, scanning, and we are just going to now we're not going to be able to answer questions continuously because they fly through really quickly, but at the same time, we're going to be streaming live on Roku, on Fire Stick, abcactionnews.com, our app, so Twitter, Facebook Live. We're kind of embracing the entire digital footprint here and trying to get everybody out the information they need. So we're going to go ahead and start with what is going on. If you were at our live chats last night, things are kind of playing out as we expected. There's a line of pretty nasty storms out there, and you can kind of see them over there. Greg is typing up right now. The Skyway is closed due to high winds. All right, so let's go ahead, and at this point, by the way, in the control room, let me know in my ear. The Facebook feed is going to kind of be a behind the scenes right onto the afternoon. So there'll be times where I won't be answering questions or talking to you. We actually might be on the cameras on our digital sources. So again, make sure you go in through the apps or abcactionnews.com to see the actual streams themselves that we're going to be broadcasting on air. And that's also going to be going on right onto the afternoon as well. So we're going to be on, I guess, until 4.
Yeah. So, Davis, I'm going to put the radar up here, and I'm going to change this to watches and warnings.
Okay.
So we have a display so folks can see both of them at once.
All right. And I'm going to just kind of look at your questions. People are looking for timelines. Well, obviously, and I'm going to make sure that you can kind of see everything. It looks like you can. Okay, so... And again, control room, whenever we're going to go live with the streams, you just let me know, and we'll that's our first focus. Facebook is going to be kind of the secondary at this point. Okay, so clearly here's your line, all right? So the one good thing is that we are not seeing very much, if any, rotation out in the Gulf. And we've been looking for a lot of different sources for that, and we're just not seeing that. So at this point in time, what we are seeing is what we call straight line winds, winds that come from thunderstorms. You know, very often in the summertime, we get straight line winds. And they can still be damaging. 50, 60 miles an hour wind, certainly possible. Already reported of a tree down in Citrus County. So the way I see this, overall, the tornado risk, at least at this point in time, is rather slim, based on current radar trends, but the watch remains in effect, I believe, until 4 o'clock. Is that right, Greg? 4 o'clock. So we have that watch in effect until 4. At this point, there are no tornado warnings. None. There's a severe thunderstorm warning in Citrus County, and things will be breaking throughout the afternoon as we go on there. So if you happen, and we always talk about lightning safety, and again, we're going to be changing sources and whatnot, addressing Facebook, but at the same time, we're also going to be addressing our digital platform. So I will tell you, in my opinion right now, the threat of actual tornadoes, certainly any kind of a widespread activity, is extremely low. I think there will, as we've been saying yesterday, the possibility of a quick little spin up is always a chance, and usually they develop, a lot of times they develop as water spouts, and then they move on shore as a brief tornado. But if you look at the entire area, I mean, we're still under a pretty decent chance of a tornado. Okay, now there's a new severe thunderstorm warning that just got extended into Hernando County. You see that? The yellow box just popped up, and there's no reason to think that the entire Bay Area from, say, Manatee County north won't be in a severe thunderstorm warning. I mean, I really think, because this line is really solid from up top right on down here. There's no breaks in it. Again, I'll show you velocity. Okay, now what this is it is a look at the atmosphere in terms of the wind, not just the rain, the precipitation that comes in, okay? And what we look for in velocity is we look for little areas of rotation, kind of like a merry-go-round. Air blowing towards you, air blowing away. Imagine you're on a merry-go-round and you're in the middle, and you see how things are coming toward you at one time and away from you at another time. So we look for that in a smaller scale. We're not seeing that right now, at least not much, a little bit. We'll also have to see if there's any kind of development inland, because that watch extends until 4 o'clock. But the way I see it right now is more than likely, and Greg, I think you're in agreement with this, I mean, there's your issue. right there.
That warning until 12:45, by the way, for Hernando County, it's going to be a wind issue almost completely in an area we've already seen a couple of trees down just because of the strong winds. If you guys have been outside today, it's just been windy. It's really amazing from last night. Even when I walked into work this morning about 2:30, it didn't feel all that humid. And then I walked out at about 8:30 this morning, and it felt like I was in a different state. I mean, so much moisture has been pushed in here, and it's all thanks to those strong winds, and they're only going to stay that strong through the afternoon. So we could see, we've already seen one report of a wind gust, 45, 50 miles an hour down in that tree there in Citrus County. So that is going to be an issue. Actually, I think the tree down
Oh, the marker right there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That is
Spring
the tree
Lake?
down, North Lanes.
And again, non-thunderstorm wind damage. So that's just the winds that are coming in out of head of the actual line itself, which is, kind of interesting. We're not seeing any spin at this point. Greg, you can handle the radar too. I'm going to answer some questions. Can people see both of us if I'm standing here? That's my question. So you go ahead and...
I think we got both of us. So right now, the area of the Bay Area that we're probably most concerned about, obviously, is going to be this area under the warning. So that's going to be Citrus and Hernando County. Sugar Mill Wood's already in there. Pine Island, this heaviest is already coming in. It's still a little bit outside of Brooksville. So Brooksville, probably 5 to 10 minutes. Spring Hill as well. Crystal River, you're kind of in the thick of it right now. There actually have been some reports of some gusty winds. I'm going to move this down and see if we can pull up some of this information. So right there, this is a WeatherStem Marine Science Station reported a wind gust of 50 knots. So it's going to be about 53, 52 miles per hour in Citrus County in the last 20 minutes or so.
By the way, Greg, I'm taking a chance. I'm moving the camera closer so everybody can see us. So this is not an earthquake. We're not dealing with earthquakes. We're just dealing with this. I think it'll actually be a little better. They can see a little bit better that way. Okay, go ahead.
Another tree down, this one, Kings Bay Lodge in Crystal River. This is not a thunderstorm. So in the same town, we basically, Dennis, had a report of a thunderstorm wind and a non-thunderstorm wind. And that's kind of the way this is working out today, is that some of these winds are strong enough outside of the thunderstorms to give us some gusty winds. So Floral City, you're next. Hernando, it's moving in now. Brooksville, you're coming in as well. I can try to do this track. I'm not sure what speed this is set for. If it was to go
Holy
east,
moly.
maybe
People aren't listening to you. They're just laughing because the camera's moving so much. but that's okay because we're actually going to, there we go. That's much better.
things are not moving. We're moving the Facebook camera.
Are we streaming on the app yet?
I think we're streaming on both, right?
I didn't think they've started doing that yet. I wasn't sure.
All right. Well, let us know if you are. Where are we streaming? You guys
Yeah.
let us know in the control room.
It needed to be closer. Hey, control room, can you guys hear me? Are we streaming on the app right now? They're at lunch, clearly. All right, you keep going. I'm going to go find out.
Okay, all right. We're going to find out where exactly you can see me. If you're farther south, Pasco County, out towards Hillsboro and over towards Pinellas, I heard a loud yes. So if you are watching on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, on Twitter, Facebook, on our app, if you're watching anywhere in the interverse, we are on and we are streaming. And there's that line of storms. So it's approaching Pasco County right now. No warnings for Pasco County, but these storms offshore, they are going to produce some pretty strong winds. Nothing here that is spinning, by the way. In fact, if you live in Pasco County and you turn toward the Gulf right now, what you should see is a pronounced lowering, a large lowering cloud headed toward the coast. We probably have a well-defined shelf cloud with this line that's approaching the coast. It kind of looks like the mothership cloud. The whole thing just lowers. Everything heads towards, the official term is SLC. It's a scary looking cloud.
And we get those often in the summertime. In fact, we got them a couple of weeks ago, too.
And over the Gulf, because you can see so far, it just looks so much more impressive. There's really nothing in your way. So now this is looking a little bit more interesting, just looking at the reflectivity. Yeah, there's some wind here. Okay, so if you live in Pinellas County, southern Pasco, western Hillsboro, I'm going to put this into motion. I know there's a lot going on here, but you see these bright colors showing up on the radar here? That's wind. And what I'm also seeing is there's a little curvature back here. What that's telling me is there's a little gust front that's racing toward Pinellas County. So I think there's going to be a really well-pronounced lowering here. You're going to see a really well-defined shelf cloud. If you're on the beaches, Clearwater Beach, Indian Rocks Beach, Mid-Era, down toward even Passage Rail, if you're looking out over the Gulf, you're seeing this headed towards you. There going to be some winds in this. 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. You know, Dennis, I would not be surprised if this may be our next severe thunderstorm warning, the way it's looking here on radar.
And Greg, and by the way, what we're doing while we're streaming and on all of our sources, we're also doing a Facebook Live over here. And I think what can be helpful is answering the questions on Facebook Live is probably the same questions that the folks watching on streaming, right? So what a lot of folks are asking, first of all, of course, is how long is this going to last? I mean, how long will any given area last? And, you know, the rain might last for a couple hours, but you got to figure the actual line of severe weather or intense weather, probably 45 minutes, you know, maybe even less than that in a lot of spots.
It's a two-parter, right? So you get this initial first dark red part. This is the squall line. That's where the wind, the rain is. As Dennis said, 40 minutes at the most for many of you, maybe 20 or 30 with some wind, and then you're just going to get into this general light rain. And you'll kind of notice you're into it because it's just going to get a lot cooler. The temperature is going to drop from the mid-80s down to the low 70s, and once that happens, you're out of the severe weather. It's just going to rain for several hours, probably a good time to just kind of stay inside and let it rain itself out. But yeah, the worst part of it, just the very beginning. We got any other questions?
Yeah, let's answer a few questions here. First of all, people are asking about power outages. Certainly a possibility. I mean, with the combination of the wind and a combination of the lightning, there could be some power outages. The interesting question, I think a lot of folks are saying, well, okay, so we're in a tornado watch, but we're really not talking about tornadoes. And this is very true. In fact, we've been talking about this for the last couple of days. There's always the possibility with a squall line in our area that there can be a quick little, what we call it, a spin up.
I feel like we've seen more tornadoes outside of tornado watches than actually.
Yeah, you're right. It's very true. So, I mean, there could be a little spin up that could pop up. But remember, let's not downplay. We'll talk about an EF0 tornado, which is usually 98% of the time what we have here. You know, that gives us 70 mile an hour winds. Well, these winds that we're talking about out ahead of what Greg just showed you, they could easily be 50. So let's not minimize the threat of the strong winds with the gusts and focus only on tornadoes, because honestly, we seriously doubt there's going to be a significant tornado outbreak. In fact, I think it's safe to say we won't have anything like that. Our worst case scenario probably would be like in Seminole in November, when we had a squall line and a tornado developed as a water spout. It turned into an EF3 and did some damage. It was small, it didn't last long, but I think that would probably be more in line of our worst case scenario.
Minor damage. The conditions over our area this far south are just not conducive. And you mentioned lightning, Dennis. Almost 1,500 strikes in this box. So this is all the line that's headed our way in 15 minutes. So multiply that out. We're talking now 6,000 lightning strikes per hour. So I would suspect that the majority of our power outages and interruptions are going to come from lightning. And that is a big danger. Remember, if you look at this, some of this lightning is striking outside of the thunderstorms, and a lot of it is coming after the initial heavy batch. So the initial heavy batch moves through, you get that wind, maybe some small hail out of it, and then the lightning just continues with this light rain as the temperature drops. And it is approaching the coast. Now, the farther south you go, the later you're going to get it. So right now we're getting it in Citrus County. It's now coming into Hernando and into Pasco, as well as northern Pinellas. For you folks farther south, the other side of the Sunshine Skyway, which is still closed, Manatee and Sarasota, you're a little farther inland, you're a little farther away from the line, so it's going to be later. And if you're watching from Polk, Haughty, DeSoto, and Highlands, you're getting some showers out ahead of the line, and there's been some lightning and thunder with these. But I mean, I don't know what you see on radar, Dennis, but I don't think these are going to be our problem right now. These just look like little pop-up showers.
Except the fact that we are getting some heating out there, and there could be a little bit of instability there. Yeah, the one question I'm getting from some folks too, and let's talk about this. Let's time it out, because a lot of folks are actually looking for specific times as to when we're thinking these are going to arrive, and we've got the tracking ability to do that.
To do that, I'm just going to make sure I've got it set. I'm going to set it for 35 miles per hour, so we can track different segments here in the line. Let's clear this out and kind of go back to the main view so you guys can see. We'll do a storm track on, let's do the northern part of this. So let's track these storms through Hernando and Citrus County. So they're already in. So Brooksville, Spring Lake, Ridge Manor, these are already in. Between now and 1:30, you're going to get these storms to move through. Farther south, we can track the southern extent of this. Let's track this into Pasco County. So let's just assume they're moving east at 35 miles an hour. So Holiday, set for Hills by 1:30. That's your track on that. Continue to track farther south. Now let's do Pinellas into northern Hillsboro County. So we'll track this out. And you notice times update here. Safety Harbor 106. So about 30, 40 minutes. Tampa 1:30. So about an hour. And then Valrico. And this, Dennis, this would be that strong part of the storm that we're tracking out in the Gulf. If you're farther south, we'll do one more track. This is now going to be for Manatee and Sarasota County. Your storms are way out here. So tracking this, you're not really getting Sarasota involved until about 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock Sarasota, Ruskin maybe after 2:30 Fishhawk. So the arrival times are going to vary any time between now and Dennis's latest 3 o'clock. And then if you get away from the coast, we're really talking 3 to 4, I think, or maybe Sebring and then Highlands County.
Yeah, Greg, and by the way, just folks at home, we're showing you a lot of our products that you can see on air. We have some other tools that are kind of inside weather, if you will, that I'm looking at. And the one thing that is showing up, and even though you're seeing those little markers right here show hail, well, but on our Doppler system that we're looking at here, there isn't much, but there is that cell, the same one that you were showing with the wind and the bowing a little bit, is showing some half-inch hail. And that is probably going to be moving, well, they're moving northeast in the direction, or they're moving along the boundary itself. So, I mean, I would think it's pretty much safe to say that's headed toward areas between Clearwater and Tarpon Springs. And so I think while we're not necessarily, in fact, probably not talking about a tornado with any of these, I think if you live anywhere from Clearwater through Dunedin, Countryside, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, Holiday, Newport Richey, even down to Madeira, Indian Rocks, that whole area is going to be looking at winds, this one little area of very heavy wind and possibly even some hail. And this is, again, something we talked about as well earlier. Quarter-size hail is a possibility. We rarely see hail in the summertime because the air is too warm aloft. But in the spring, when you get a system like this, it can certainly happen. Not the kind of stuff you're hearing about in Texas when they have baseball-size hail. But for us, quarter-size hail is a significant thing, something we don't see very often.
And this is, and we've kind of been talking about this all week. Last Sunday we had a squall line move through. We weren't maybe we weren't even maybe blowing it up as much in the forecast because the setup was different. This one, there is a little bit more energy a little farther south. That's why we've been talking about it the last couple of days. This one's going to be a little stronger. There is a little bit more energy for some hail. The part that Dennis was talking about here, it's just offshore. If it continues to move northeast, these are some potential places that can be impacted. So northern Pinellas County, up towards East Lake, Palm Harbor, the Lutz area, maybe by 1:30, Greenfield community by 1:37 in the next hour. And there's also a lot of lightning with this too, and that kind of gives you a little hint that, maybe this one has a little bit more to it. We can actually track some of these parts of the storm that the radar is seeing, and you see some of the arrival times there.
You know what else we're showing on one of our other maps? The entire area is showing wind gusts of about 40 to 45 miles an hour. And that's before.
Been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about wind gusts just with the storms. We're talking about winds out here. Most of our counties right now are showing gusts of tropical storm force, you could argue.
Which is incredible because this morning we were looking at the winds. They're about 5 to 10 miles an hour. 6 o'clock this morning, and now we've gone up to 40, and that just tells you how much energy, wind energy, is in this storm. And that's why, the tornado threat, yes, there's a tornado watch, we're watching, but the wind threat is really what I think you and I are probably more concerned about than the actual tornadoes.
And we can pretty much all but guarantee that in the next 5 to 10 minutes, these warnings will be extended down to Pasco County and Pinellas County. Too early to tell whether Manatee gets involved. It probably does. But I mean, the way at home you play this is you see this line, you're thinking, is it going to hit us? It is.
Yeah.
I do think, as we were saying, it might weaken some as it starts to move inland. It might. But along the coast, in fact, we were talking earlier today, I-75 west and maybe north of I-4 is probably the biggest threat for a tornado.
See, I don't know if I can zoom out that much. This is a gigantic iPad, so bear with me here. Well, you know what we could do? We could zoom out probably and clear some of these labels out. There we go. So the strongest part of the storm is up here. I know this is far, but you see all the warnings here? South Carolina, North Florida. We've actually had reports of funnel clouds, ongoing tornado warnings in southeast Georgia. This is where most of the storm's energy is going to be. We're just getting kind of the southern tail end of it.
And again, I think focusing in on the area right around Pinellas and central and northern Pinellas and Pasco. I mean, folks, if you live in these areas, I mean, I think it's a pretty good suggestion. I'd hang where you are for the next, I mean, we're not trying to hype it or overplay anything. In fact, we usually kind of go in the other direction. We live in Florida. We get thunderstorms. We get strong thunderstorms almost every day. But this is a little unusual because there's so much wind in addition to right in the middle of the storm. I mean, in the middle of the summer, you're out in a thunderstorm. It can be incredibly windy right where you are, and 5 minutes later, it's gone.
It's gone.
Not so much with this.
And, you know, the other thing to be concerned about is just the heavy rain. So many of our neighborhoods don't drain well. So having to go out there and drive in this, if there's something that you've got to do, you've been planning to do, that you can move to later on this evening or to the weekend, you know, that may be a good idea, because especially coastal Pasco and Pinellas County, the rain and the rate of the rain is really going to start to ramp up over the next 20 to 30 minutes.
Now, the other thing we haven't talked a lot about is we're going to have a strong westerly wind. So there is the chance there could be some coastal flooding.
There could be.
Now, there have been coastal flooding advisories and watches in effect for our northern counties, not necessarily from the rain, but because you have such a strong fetch coming in off the Gulf, that and at a month where it actually happens to be a pretty high tide today and again tomorrow, that what happens is that pushes the water in, and sometimes it makes it hard for the water to drain out, pushing as high as it does. We all know what that's like in tropical storm season. So that is something also we're watching around Citrus County. But right now, officially, what just fell, the microphone?
Something
fell.
fell.
Let me go fix that.
Weather center is falling.
Tornado watch remains in effect. Well, I don't think you can see this one. Pretty much for our entire area except for Highlands County until 4 o'clock. We have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect from Hernando, Citrus, Northwest Sumter, Marion, Levy, and then all of this, I just can't even fathom that this would not be extended down into Pasco and Pinellas in the near future. Let me go fix that mic.
And, you know, and what you can see here also is the extent of this line. So it extends well to our north and well to our south. So if you're thinking, am I going to get rain today? Yes. The answer is yes. At some point today, you are going to get heavy rain from this line because it's got to clear our area. And whether it's, well, there it is, Dennis, just issued severe thunderstorm warning. That includes Hillsboro, Pasco, and Pinellas. Hit that info button at the very top. Let's show everybody what we're looking at here until 1:15.
Yeah, so there's little doubt that this will hold together for the most part, at least through Hillsboro County and Pasco County. I mean, there may be a little bit of weakening in, you know, Highlands or Eastern Polk, but at this point, the good news out of this is we have not seen any signatures of tornadoes. There really hasn't even been the hint of that. So officially that watch is in effect, but I think for you at home, this is going to be a 30 to 40 minute heavy rain event, heavy wind event, maybe some hail, and then the rain lingers for a while. So if you think you're going to get out of the rain until 4 or 5, you're probably not. But at least the severe threat will only be, what, the first 30 minutes of this line that comes through?
Yeah, I think, you know, and at least good news, first of all, it's a holiday, so many of you are already off. If you know someone that's at work, it seems like the majority of this, the worst part of it, is going to move by before any kind of light evening commute. So that hopefully will make things a little bit better. So there you see the severe thunderstorm warning. And the line continues south, so, you know, eventually probably Manatee and Sarasota, you're going to see that severe thunderstorm warning issued.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. I mean, that lightning extends all the way.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see this in Florida very often, maybe a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
Typically, the energy kind of tapers off by the time you get into the Manatee and Sarasota County, but this is going to make it all the way down to Charlotte and, you know, Lee County as well. So, again, I'm going to run over and answer a few questions if you want to keep...
Yeah, I'm going to look at some of the wind speeds here and see what we've got. You know, it's always good to just kind of check in with the radar, see what's going on. So I can tell you already a couple of things that I'm seeing right off the bat, and that is that our little core of strong winds that's approaching the coast is bright green. It's a couple miles off Clearwater Beach. It's not as strong as it was a couple of minutes ago, so that's certainly good news, and we can actually put this into motion. And you see, it was bright green just a few miles offshore. Now we've kind of gone more to these darker greens. That's indicating less wind. Great news there with that system. Now, what I'm also seeing is that there are additional little pockets of wind energy farther south and west down this line. Some bright blues showing up here. This is well to the south and west of Indian Rocks Beach out in the Gulf, but we'll continue to see these waves, and as these waves move in, some of them are going to have some pretty strong gusty winds with them, and that's why the Weather Service, instead of maybe selecting specific communities for these warnings. They're basically probably just going to issue warnings along the line. Just anyone along this line has an equal chance of seeing a damaging wind gust, maybe some very heavy rain, obviously, frequent lightning. We'll watch for that chance of an isolated tornado, but looking at the wind data, this is just not set up for any kind of organized tornado event right now. I'm just not seeing it there. I know there's a tornado watch, and when you see that popping up on ABC Action News, when you get that alert from the ABC Action News app or the Storm Shield app, which, by the way, download the Storm Shield app if you don't have it, because as soon as you launch it, you get tightened Doppler radar right there in the app. You get to see exactly where the storms are, zoom into your neighborhood so you can track it along with us. But I know it says tornado watch, but I'm just not seeing anything here that says tornado to me on radar. If we are going to see anything, it's going to be brief, it's going to be quick, and it's probably not going to be all that significant.
And by the way, sharing something with folks who are watching us streaming right now, because this is kind of a different animal for folks, because in this way we have streaming, this way we have a Facebook Live. And everybody on Facebook Live, or a lot of people are saying, I'm not seeing you on TV. Why? I don't understand what's going on here. Because the advantage of this with this option is there's no programming that we have to worry about. We can just go on, no commercials, and we can continue talking and answering your questions at the same time. So if you're watching on Facebook, which some people are, a lot of people, probably as many, if not more, you need to go to abcactionnews.com,
Correct.
Or you can download our app from either Google or from Apple, and you can do it with the Fire Stick. You can download the app on Roku, and what you'll see is, when you search it, it'll say ABC Action News. You click on that, download it.
It's free.
It's free. Click on the link, and sometimes other things will be on. Sometimes videos will be on.
So the nice thing about the Roku app, I have that at home. I actually love it because whenever we're live, it doesn't play anything else. The first thing it goes to is our live stream. So as soon as you start the app, I'm not sure if it works that way on iPad or iPhone, but on Roku at least, and probably Fire TV, as soon as you launch it, you get us and you get the live stream. So you didn't have to worry about finding us. It's just right there. And that's probably the best way to watch, because if we were on TV right now, we would have to worry about commercials and programming.
General Hospital.
Oh,
man. 2 o'clock, General Hospital comes on, and the phone calls start. Why are you guys saying the same thing over and over? We can say similar things here and get the information across.
We will repeat ourselves a lot, but we can.
And we always talk about this as well. Again, if you're just tuning in, whether on Facebook or on feed, severe thunderstorm warning, Pinellas, Pasco, Hernando, and Citrus County. This is the line coming through. That's the air that you're looking at. In terms of the rainfall, it is right here. Now, no tornado warnings at this point, not even a lot of spin out there. So it does appear the main part of the damage, if we see any, and there's going to be some trees down, some pool cages, things like that. I mean, you get
carports, that kind of deal.
Yeah, and a lot of lightning. So, so again, the option here, what we're going to plan on hanging out doing this until, well, you've been here since 2 o'clock in the morning, so maybe take a break later. But
might be here till 3 or 4, that's fine.
But regardless, we've got this line, and it gives us a chance to address you on the app who are already watching, and you kind of know what we're doing, or on abcactionnews.com. In fact, that's a good point. There's probably a lot of people watching on the web, maybe not so much on their app, so you can download these at any time. And as Greg said, I think one of the best things is you get a notification if we're doing any kind of stream.
Right there.
And you have the option of doing it, and it's free, which is a plus.
Which is a big plus. I don't want to leave the folks out here in Hernando, Hardee, DeSoto, and Highlands County. You're probably hearing some thunder. You're seeing some lightning and some downpours. We're watching these storms. They've kind of popped up in this area that's seen a lot of heating in the afternoon. I looked at some of the weather data. This area here, south of I-4, more conducive to strong gusty winds. If we're going to see something called a downburst, it's going to be here in this part of our area, and it could come from any of these storms. What happens is the air goes up to form a thunderstorm, and then it just comes crashing down. And that's sometimes when you can get, oftentimes people say, wow, there was a tornado in my backyard. Then the Weather Service goes in and say, no, it was actually a downburst, just a whole lot of wind falling out of the storm.
It looks like, okay, has that warning been expanded east? I think it has.
It may have been adjusted. We're certainly seeing, it may be worth zooming in on Pasco and Pinellas County there. Do that box zoom, because the strongest of the weather is moving in right now. I mean, 19, you're about to be in it. This is really heavy rain.
Yeah, and of course all the lightning, which I think as Floridians, we're kind of used to the lightning. I mean, in the summertime, if this is your first year in Florida and you think that what you're about to see is lightning, just wait until July and August. It's another animal entirely.
Insane.
But the wind that we're getting along with this, and especially out ahead of it, I mean, that kind of surprised me. We also have a stream going on now with constant weather information, and I just glanced over it, and every single reporting site had winds gusting 40 to 45 miles an hour.
A lot of wind energy. So, and that's at the surface. Typically, the winds up in the thunderstorm level can be even stronger. And what happens is the rain can push that wind down. And so, as this starts coming in, Newport Richey, Hudson, Elfers, Holiday, down to East Lake, Pinellas Park, Tarpon Springs, Palm Harbor, I was going to say, Tarpon Springs. As this rain comes in, you could see a wind gust of 40, 50, maybe, I mean, Dennis, 60 miles an hour, not out of the question.
Especially if you're closer to the coast,
Yeah.
because typically what happens is there's less friction over the water, so when the air goes over it, it has less to slow it down. Once it moves over land, a lot of times it can weaken a bit, unless you're in a strong storm, which can obviously provide quite a bit of energy and wind as well. So, as we were saying, severe thunderstorm warning now includes all of Pinellas, northwest Hillsboro. You can absolutely guarantee that this line is going to hang together, and it's moving northwest to southeast, okay? So the whole line is going to cover everybody, and eventually what you're going to see on an average is probably 30 to 40, 45 mile an hour winds, heavy rain, a ton of lightning, maybe some hail, kind of what we were saying the last couple of days. I mean, we often talk about, and I know, and I've gotten even a little bit on my soapbox lately about this. You know, you tune in some other sources, some national sources, you know, and it seems as though that we're talking a lot about every single person, 30 million people impacted by a storm. Well, I guess if you're getting a raindrop, maybe. But with us, that's what's nice about local.
Yeah.
We have the ability to just focus on our neighborhoods and nothing more. And because honestly, I think that's what most of our people are looking to hear, not, you know, what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah, you don't care about the warnings up north or what's going up there. You want to see this right here. And it's moving in right now. See if you can hit the loop button there and see if we can show you the motion on this.
Questions.
You see it blowing in. Yeah, see, folks, if you've got a question, by the way, Dennis is on his Facebook page. Make sure you visit him there. So if you want to know something about your local community, your neighborhood, this is a great chance. This is something that we don't get to do on TV because we are on these streaming apps and on your streaming device. We can walk off camera and actually answer your question. So if you've got a question for us this afternoon, Dennis is on his Facebook page. Find this live feed there, his Facebook Live, and you can comment with a question. We'll be glad to answer it for you here. I'm seeing the heaviest of the weather moving into Pinellas County right now. Let's do another storm track on some of this. So we'll start off here. First, the Hernando portion of this. Let's do about an hour and a half worth of tracking. So Brooksville by 108, Groveland by 2 o'clock in the Leesburg area, that's out of Hernando County, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll do another storm track. This one's going to be farther south. Let's track the portion that's moving into Pasco and portions of Pinellas County. So the Lutz area by 116. So 30 minutes or less. East Lake, it's almost there. I mean, you're basically in it right now in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Zephyr Hills, Gibsonia, all could see that. Lake Alfred by 2:33, that portion of the storm. So these are separate sections that I'm tracking for you this afternoon. Farther south, the rain's a little farther offshore. So we'll start the storm track for southern Pinellas and Hillsboro back here. Let me do that again. Got a little ahead of myself with the clicking. So we'll start right there and track it. We'll give it one more shot. This is another thing that I wouldn't try as often on TV as I do on the streaming app. All right, St. Pete, 141. Ruskin, about 2 o'clock. So a little bit later, you're farther inland, the Riverview area, probably 2 to 2:15 if this continues to track this way. What's happening here is that the main line itself, find a clear button here, the line is shifting east. It's shifting east at about 30 to 35. But all these little cells, these little strong parts inside of it, they're riding up along the line to the north and east. So it's kind of confusing because the individual little wind segments are moving northeast while everything shifts toward the east. So it's going to take some time for all of this to move through our area. Down to the south, Looking at the storms in Highlands County, DeSoto and Hardy. Let's give you folks a view here. If you're watching Southern Polk County as well, we'll zoom in. Southern Polk right now between Frostproof and Fort Meade. Heavy storm now, some lightning and thunder heading up towards Bartow. That's going to be near Lake Wales. So out towards Legoland, Winter Haven, you're going to get a downpour. Avon Park, you've got rain moving in right now down towards Wauchula. We can move this to the south and take a look at Highlands County. Highway 66, Zolfo Springs out to Sebring. Rain right now, maybe some small hail near Sylvan Shores. Lake Placid as well. Arcadia, you've already seen a little bit of lightning and thunder nearby. That's all moving by. None of this, by the way, so far is severe, but you're getting some waves of rain, the strongest one of which actually is just about to enter Highlands County. So Sebring, Lake Placid, Avon Park, in the next hour, you're actually probably going to see the heaviest of the rain that you've seen so far. I'm going to take you into the storm here. Let's start with Pinellas County and just move our way north here along 19. So Indian Rocks Beach, heavy rain moving in. St. Pete, you're getting some of the heavy stuff moving in right now. It's still mainly off to your west. It is raining, however, heavily in northern Pinellas. So if you get on 19 down to the south in St. Pete and head north, you're going to be heading into the storm. It's raining very heavily on 19 and 19A through Palm Harbor and Tarpon Springs. East Lake, Oldsmar, you're about to get into it, and then heading up north into Pasco County. This is where 19 is by far seeing some of the heaviest of the rain. Newport Richey back up to Holiday, and a lot of lightning here too, Dennis.
And we are getting a lot of responses from folks in the Palm Harbor area, anywhere from Alt 19 over to 19 itself. That's where they're guesstimating about 40 to 45 mile an hour winds. So now remember, when we talk about a severe thunderstorm warning, that's winds 60 miles an hour or quarter-size hail. So that's something that I think a lot of folks are kind of confused by, because severe thunderstorm warnings have nothing to do with lightning.
Right.
We could have 11 billion lightning strikes, and there would be no severe thunderstorm
I get that
warning.
a lot. Wow, this lightning is crazy. This must be severe. And, well, actually it's not.
Technically, according to the Weather Service, it isn't. So when areas that aren't under a severe thunderstorm warning still getting 50-mile-an-hour winds, I've been thinking that's severe to me, right? That's what a lot of folks at home are saying. Now, at the same time, those areas are under warnings. In fact, let's go ahead and look in Pinellas County. In fact, zoom into the area down there, because not only is areas from, let's go from Tarpon Springs, Palm Harbor, Dunedin, Ozona, right over into there. This whole area is moving. See, the entire front, the entire squall line is moving northwest to southeast. Back to hit, there we go. But individual cells, if you will, are riding along that front. So it's certainly possible that these, which are down here, will end up here.
And that's what I really think. I really think it's this portion of the line here that's probably going to impact Tampa and St. Pete. So you've got one county, Pinellas County, but it's almost getting impacted by two separate parts of the line, right? The Palm Harbor area by this first batch. St. Pete is kind of waiting back for the southern portion.
And we've got some live pictures. Of course, we have use of our cams, our live cams and our FDOT cams. And this is in Clearwater, downtown, where you can see, I mean, you know, the winds are blowing pretty good. You know, we often say as a Floridian, we're kind of used to this. Doesn't this remind you of a hurricane coverage?
It really does. It does look like hurricane coverage,
you
doesn't
got the dude cleaning the camera lens, and the only thing you don't have is somebody out there in front being blown around. But regardless, this is going to last in any given spot for about a half hour. So if you're wondering, no matter where you live in the Bay Area, when this arrives, it is going to be about a half hour of that kind of wind. 40. Now, think about it. A tropical storm has winds of 39 miles an hour or greater. So if we're seeing 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, you can argue clearly that we're getting tropical storm force conditions. I get it if you're a purist, we're not, but winds are winds. 50 mile an hour winds and a lot of lightning and heavy rain, you could argue this is kind of like a minimal tropical storm. The advantage is it's only going to last 20 minutes in any given spot. The heavy stuff. Back behind it, the rain will continue for several hours, but at least in terms of the severe threat, the tornado threat, the gusty winds, the damaging winds, those will only last maybe 20 to 30 minutes. But the lightning, obviously, this is quite a lightning show here from Crystal River all the way back out into the Gulf. And as we loop it here, I mean, you can see the entire thing is moving on shore. So if you live, here's the bottom line, if you live anywhere from Pinellas County, Pasco County, along the coast, this is all moving in, you probably want to stay put for the next hour or so. I mean, we all drive in the summertime in the middle of our afternoon storms. Some people, oh, by the way, flashers off. I know that that's a Florida thing too, apparently. But if you are driving or you're going anywhere in severe weather, if you're new to the area, it is kind of a thing. You don't drive with your emergency flashers on. It is against the law in Florida. And there's a lot of people that are very, very, they get really fired up about it if you do. So regardless, there is the warning. It will extend east. I can guarantee you eventually by the time we hit maybe 2 o'clock, all of Pasco will have seen it, all of Hernando, because this is a loop of 1 hour. So see how far it's gone in 1 hour, from about maybe 20 miles offshore to now moving right into the heart of it. So you can pretty much take this entire area and move it over about that same distance in an hour, and you will have already gone through most of Pasco County, all of Pinellas County, and maybe just approaching Manatee, moving into central, well, right around Tampa in central Hillsboro County. And, you know, if you live in Citrus County, your worst will be over in probably 15 or 20 minutes. So the good news from all of this is we have yet to have even a sniff, even a hint of any kind of a tornado, which is a great thing. Tornado warnings usually in the Bay Area are typically, the tornadoes are very small. They're called EF0s. It used to be F0, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. Now it's EF, which is enhanced Fujita. Professor at the University of Chicago, Dr. Fujita, invented the scale. That's where it comes from, the F. So an EF0 is the weakest up to an EF5. Actually, the scale, believe it or not, goes up to an EF12. Not right? Exactly. You think anything more than a 5? I don't think so. But regardless, this is what we're going to continue to watch now. I'd say if you live anywhere from, let's go on from neighborhood to neighborhood. Let's stop in Hudson, and we'll just, from that point, just go right on down the road, down 19 pretty much, from Hudson to Bayonet Point, Jasmine Estates, Port Richey, Newport Richey. All of this right now, you're getting pretty much the bulk of this. And I would say in the next 15 to 20 minutes, it will actually be weakening. For you, the severe stuff, the wind, it's still going to be windy and it's still going to be raining, but I think the surge of air, the real rough stuff, is going to be gone probably in about 20 minutes or so. And then if you go, I'd say probably from, well, maybe areas down to Holiday, Tarpon Springs, again, right along US 19, just going into Eastlake right now, Oldsmar, Safety Harbor, you're just picking up the winds we've been having, but you're just beginning to pick up the leading edge of what will be a pretty nasty line for about, on any given spot, you can expect about 30 to 45 minutes of rough weather. The worst of it probably only about 20 minutes, and then it slowly gets better as you go on. So right now, the worst of it is moving from Tarpon Springs through Palm Harbor, over toward Eastlake, back, and it's up through Trinity now, Elfers, as Greg mentioned, through Dunedin, Ozona, Countryside, and then we go from Safety Harbor back to Clearwater, and then it really extends. It has not made it over to the east side of Pinellas, so expect the Gandy and those areas to be picking it up soon. You got something, Greg?
Yeah, this is the Pinellas County camera. This is 19 at Island Way, so this is going to be making your way out towards like the beaches. Mm-hmm. And this is basically, if you guys, this is coming out of Doppler, I think. I'm not that familiar with the traffic computer, so I'm not sure how I got this, but I hit 10 buttons, and this is what happened, and there it is. So this is what most folks are seeing. They're seeing, you see the camera moving, there's a lot of rain, but nothing too probably, strong at this time.
And as Floridians, I mean, we look at things a lot different.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks probably tomorrow or even later tonight are going to say, it wasn't that bad. And that's good.
Right.
But there was always the possibility maybe one or two people could see something a little bit stronger. I mean, if you're that one person that has a tree go down in your house and you're going to feel like you weren't warned about it, then you have a reason to be upset. So as we sit here and kind of sound like we're being repetitive, you got to remember people are coming in, people are going out, and our goal, and I think, Greg, we've talked about this before, pretty much every Met I've ever known, this is our passion, getting severe weather and letting people know what they need to do to stay safe. I mean, it's really nothing bigger than that for what we do and for a living.
And for 90% of you, nothing's going to happen. You're going to get some rain, you're going to get lightning and thunder and some gusty winds, and it's going to be your average thunderstorm. And then there will be some neighborhoods, some folks are going to go outside after this storm and say, wow, look at that tree. Or I mean, and this is why we're there, to make sure that you guys know what's happening. and that if you have anything planned today, if you're planning anything, keep this in mind. You know, make this part of the plans for your day. If you've got to do something this afternoon, maybe wait until this evening. Move it to the weekend, because we definitely don't want folks out there that don't need to be out there. This is hard enough to travel with in just the rain. Florida rain is incredibly heavy. I mean, there's nothing like Florida rain out there. I've been in some downpours, but when it starts raining here and you get all that moisture, I mean, there is not a setting on your windshield. There should be a Florida setting on your windshield wipers that just have it go into some crazy mode, because it's so difficult to see.
And that's when people start pulling over, and sometimes that's when people start putting their emergency
and the
flashes
flashes go on, and everyone starts braking, and then no one's moving, and you get it.
So we're going to continue seeing this up. We got something from our executive producer, Joey Davis. Thank you.
Delays, cancellations.
Okay. All right. So TIA confirms there is a ground stop at the airport right now. They say it happens daily throughout the summer, so it's really not all that unusual, because in the summertime, obviously, when we get those rains that Greg was just talking about, it can happen. So anytime lightning gets within 5 miles of the airport, they stop operations. So there you go. Delays up to 30, and I'm guessing up to 30 minutes, and 107 delays right now, about 20% of the flights. 22 cancellations. Not sure how many of those are on the weather or related to the weather. So again, there is a ground stop right now at TIA. And if you're watching on Facebook, I encourage this. This is something new. We've never really tried this before, where we're streaming live on Facebook, but at the same time streaming live on all our other sources. If you want to get a better view of what we're doing, a better view of rather than just the single shot that we have, love our Facebook folks, but you can download our app on Roku, and you just look at ABC Action News, or you can go to abcactionnews.com or Amazon Fire Stick. You know, there's all these sources that you have the ability for free just to download them, and then you click on streaming, and usually it'll notify you that we're streaming, and you have the ability to see what everything else is showing right now. A much easier way to see, because I know I'm kind of standing in the way of some of this stuff, but it works out better overall, and that's the main reason we're not on TV. Now, I will tell you, if there were a tornado warning, we would immediately break into TV, and we would probably stay on TV, even if it were General Hospital, and talk about the tornado warning until it expires, because ultimately that is our goal, to get everybody the information they need to keep their families safe. I just can't imagine anything being more important. So go ahead and look at the latest radar. We will loop it. This is moving pretty quickly. What, about 35, 40 miles an hour?
35, 40 miles an hour. You know, I'm looking at some of the wind data here. There's another little burst coming into Pinellas County, just offshore. It's probably going to line up a little farther south than the last one, maybe Indian Rocks Beach north, maybe even a little farther south. But, you know, just like the last one, I wonder if it's going to weaken a little bit before it approaches the coast. It probably have maybe a little bit more stable air over our land areas, because a lot of these storms, they've been producing wind offshore, but as soon as they move in, they just kind of weaken.
Yeah, and there's always the thought, too, that when you do get sunshine in the Bay Area, we sometimes call it self-destructive sunshine, because all that does is the hotter the air, the more unstable, the more volatile it gets. So if you live in these interior counties, as we've already been saying, there are some showers and some thunderstorms out ahead of it, but what that'll have a tendency to do is kind of level things off a little bit. It's called working over the atmosphere. So it cools things down, it limits the severe threat. So the way we see it right now, the largest threat by far is what we're experiencing right this minute. Tampa, it has not made it into your area. Apollo Beach, Ruskin, Temple Terrace, Brandon, Seffner, Dover, all of the areas in Hillsboro County, New Tampa, hasn't made it to Wesley Chapel or Land O'Lakes yet, but it's getting closer there. So what you're going to experience over the next hour is pretty much what everybody else has been experiencing along the coast. 30, 40 mile an hour winds. You know, if there's a severe thunderstorm warning, then the Weather Service must be pretty much convinced that there's at least some 60 mile an hour wind gusts out there.
Yeah, I would say so for sure.
And certainly seems like a possibility. But the warning continues for another 15, 20 minutes in a few spots. But it's moving quickly. So that's a good thing. So any given spot will probably, okay, so there are, until 1:15.
So 15 minutes.
Hillsboro, Pasco, Pinellas have not had any reports of hail yet.
No.
If you happen to see any hail, if you're on our Facebook Live feed, let us know. Or if you happen to have the ability from inside to take some pictures or to get some video, that's always awesome too. Because you would think there would at least be a couple of spots that are, what's showing here is the radar signature and the Doppler is picking up what it appears to be as hail. We get it all the time in the summer. The problem is that hail is up top. By the time it makes it down to the ground, it melts. This kind of a situation, I still, because it's so volatile and so cold up top, I wouldn't be surprised if we still see a few hail reports. You want to take over?
Yeah. I'll do some more tracking for you. Maybe you guys are curious about when everything arrives in your part of the Bay Area. So let's kind of take you up. We'll go north to south. Well, we're going to include everybody. So just kind of hang in there with me as I go county through county so you guys see exactly what's going on. I've got Citrus County up right now, Crystal River, and anyone along 19 to the coast. You're done with the severe weather. The strongest part of the storm is now Hernando to Floral City and Inverness, and it's about to track out of the county. I mean, I can do a storm track on this. It's near Floral City, but there is maybe 30 minutes left, and it actually shows Coleman, which is in the neighboring county, as their arrival time at 1 o'clock. So Citrus County, you are clearing out. I think the worst of it is in the county now, and it's about to move out. Hernando County, you're kind of still in the thick of things here, especially from Brooksville and 41 back to the west. So the Suncoast Parkway and 19 both getting really heavy rain, maybe some small hail there around Brooksville, and some gusty winds. I'm going to take a look at the wind data just to make sure we're not missing anything, and I'm going to put this into motion. Sometimes when you see this move, you can kind of get a better idea. You know what, that storm there over Brooksville right now is probably one of the stronger ones we've seen so far this afternoon. I'm going to put this into motion and see what's going on here. We could be getting some stronger winds around Brooksville right now. So if you're watching from Hernando County, if you're watching from Brooksville, definitely want to stay inside for the next 30 minutes as this storm moves by. The actual storm is moving northeast, so I'm going to adjust the map. We're going to track it. It's right over downtown Brooksville. And we're going to track this thing out. Let's try that one more time. We're going to track this thing out of downtown Brooksville to the north and east, next 45 minutes. So Brooksville now, North Brooksville, about 1 o'clock, so we're there. Nobleton, 117, and then you get out of Hernando County into Bushnell, and then over towards Coleman by 1:44. Could be some stronger winds. You know, if there was one storm I'd be watching in the Bay Area, maybe it's this one here in Hernando County. Right now, it is just a severe thunderstorm warning. It definitely looks like it could produce a 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gust. If there was a storm right now in our area that's going to produce 50 or 60 mile an hour winds, it's going to be the one in Hernando County. All right. Pasco County, you're farther south. Bayonet Point, Elfers, Holiday, Newport Richey. If you live along and to the west of 19, that's going to take you out to the coast. You're basically in the thick of it now, or the strongest is just to your east. So now it's approaching 41. So Lutz, Land O'Lakes, Wesley Chapel, Zephyr Hills, Dade City, these are the areas in Pasco County that should be watching that line. We'll track it toward the east and northeast. Always takes a couple times to do this. You know, I figured out Scout's Honor is the best way to do this. 2 fingers together and the touchscreen works. Pasco by 123, Dade City 139, Lacucci 146, and then the Richlome area by 153. That would be out of Pasco County. So there are your storm tracks there. Again, the worst is moving through Holiday, Elfers, Newport Richey, over toward Hudson now, Bayonet Point as well, and it's actually on its way out. Dennis, take the radar, take a look at the Hernando County storm. What do you got?
Yeah, I want to just mention a couple of storm reports that we're getting as well. So from the Weather Service, there's now a significant weather advisory for Highlands, Eastern Hardy, Southeastern Polk, and Eastern DeSoto County. Okay. A significant weather advisory is just one step down from a severe thunderstorm warning. So it's, you know, it's not going to show up as an alert on your app. It's not going to show up in the bottom of the screen usually, but it just kind of goes to show that those areas aren't expecting quite the intense storms that we're having along the coast. Also want to mention apparently that there was a house struck in Sanibel from lightning. That was earlier this morning. So, well, you know, we can't minimize the fact that we're also still getting a lot of lightning in there in terms, do you have the lightning strikes on there?
It's nonstop, yeah. So they're plotted here. I'm going to zoom out here, and then let's actually do a little count and see if the lightning amount has actually dropped or increased. So we'll look at the whole line. Well, let me try that again. I'm out of the range of this. So we'll start down here and then take it up. That portion, 605. One more try. There we go. That's as far as it's going to go probably.
So 1,000.
In 15 minutes.
Now, as amazing as that is, in the summertime, we can see 7,000, 8,000 in the same stretch.
You know, over the Gulf, when I was tracking this early this morning, about 200 miles offshore, that number was at 4,000. So we've actually lost a little bit. And, it may be the water's a little cooler out here than it is in the central Gulf. So it's probably running into an area that's not as conducive for a lot of lightning.
Matter of fact, the fact that the water's cooler, that was one of the reasons, I guess, last week we were anticipating a line that was up north that was going to fizzle out before moving in, and it actually held together a little bit. But usually this time of the year, as storms get closer, even though you say the water's not that cool, well, it's cooler than what's going on out to the west.
Yeah.
And out to the west, the warmer the water, just like in hurricane season. 80 degrees is always that magic number to sustain tropical development. So, you know, when it gets closer and our waters are in the mid-70s, then it might lose a little bit of its punch. Still, let's not minimize it. There's some punch to it. Most of the reports that I'm seeing on the Weather Service, we're talking about 40 to 50 miles an hour, which is kind of what we're seeing as well. That makes sense.
It's what we're seeing on the cameras. It's what I'm seeing in the wind data. I'm looking at Pinellas and Hillsboro. So West Chase, you're about to get into some of the heavier rain out towards Keystone. Looking at the radar, there is a little pocket here of some gustier winds. You see the lighter colors here, southwest of Largo. So that's going to move on shore here in the next few minutes. If you're near the beaches, it's especially everyone that, if you're lucky enough to be right on the beach and you're facing the Gulf, you're going to get a burst of wind as this moves in. That's probably going to be the strongest of it. Probably breaks up a little bit as it heads in, but Safety Harbor, Largo, Pinellas Park, Seminole, up towards maybe as far north as Oldsmar, and then as you head down to Old Tampa Road into the airport, this whole area, there could be some 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts for sure in the next hour as this moves northeast, which, Dennis, would make sense since this area is under a severe thunderstorm warning.
And we are getting storm reports, so let's go ahead and share some of these. These are from Facebook. Getting reports, tons of lightning in Weeki Wachee. Remember, the Skyway is still closed. That's over my shoulder right there. It's always kind of an odd thing to look at the Skyway and not see any cars on it. But the Skyway is still currently closed. What else are we getting here? Homosassa. Kind of like a summertime thunderstorm, which I think in a sense that's kind of what this is for a lot of folks. I mean, 40, 50 mile an hour winds, torrential downpours, and a lot of lightning. It sounds like every day in the summertime. Lost power. Beth said she lost power in Holiday briefly for a few seconds. So the power flickered, which kind of makes sense. And you're showing a wind gust there.
Yeah, this is Polk County. So this is going to be on the west side of Lakeland. One of these showers, Dennis, that was moving by, and that's interesting because they weren't severe, 56 miles an hour. Yeah. And there's so much wind energy in these storms that it just takes a little bit of rain to push that wind down, and suddenly you've got a 56-mile-an-hour wind gust out of a non-severe storm, which is why we're here.
And by the way, power outages are certainly a possibility. I mean, they're not going to, you wouldn't think they would last particularly long, but when you're having 40, 50 mile an hour winds, even before the storms come, there's always that possibility that you could see that. So we're not showing a lot of that, though. We did report, again, there was a ground stop at TIA, so that's important. In fact, I'll mention that again if you're just tuning in. A lot of folks asking, how come you're not on TV? We're using our additional media sources. It isn't like the old days where you had 3 or 4 channels or you had a cable box and that was it. Now, there's all these platforms that gives us the ability to get the information out that you need. And right now, as I said, TIA, ground stop, the last that we heard, but they said it happens almost every day in the summertime. So this is very reminiscent of what we get in July, August, and September.
And the line extends farther south if you're watching from St. Pete. Light rain is just moving in. Kind of interesting that the heaviest of the stuff, the rain in this, is a little bit beyond the light rain. So you'll get about 20 minutes of light rain, and then the heavier part of the thunderstorm moves in. Bradenton is still well offshore. We'll do a storm track for Manatee County. So I would think it's these storms here that are headed your way. Let's do that one more time, and you see the radar there is actually highlighting that storm as maybe being a little stronger. So Bradenton Beach, Anna Maria, Coquina Beach, the islands there, 151. Sarasota, especially there. Maybe you've got a flight out of the Sarasota-Bradenton airport, 2 o'clock. They're probably going to stop air traffic out of that airport as well. Ellington Parish, if you're out at the outlets, know somebody that's out there. They're going to get the heaviest of the rain just after 2 o'clock, and then Waimama by 2:43. So different parts of Hillsboro County are really going to get impacted at very different times. The Keystone area is getting rain right now. Waimama, an hour and 40 minutes from now. And that's just the way the line is set up. So not everyone is getting this all at once. It's kind of coming in batches and segments. Farther south, Venice, Englewood, I mean, Northport, you're looking well into later on this evening, maybe 5:30 before some of this rain reaches your area. No new warnings from the Weather Service popping up on the screen. I am watching some of these little cells. If we've got anyone on the live stream this afternoon from Highlands County, let us know what's going on here. Are you seeing some gusty winds?
I am hearing storm reports from Odessa.
Okay.
In fact, the comment was from Vincent. In all seriousness, Odessa is starting to get walloped.
Oh,
So,
okay. All right.
We're also hearing Zephyr Hills, also just starting to hear some ominous thunder rumbling.
Okay.
So areas in, that makes sense. There it is in
Yeah,
central
there it is. There's
Pasco
Zephyr Hills right there.
and eastern. So you're hearing the thunder. But right now, I mean, looking at lightning detection, this is about the next 10 minutes is probably the worst that Pinellas is going to get from Clearwater north.
Oh, yeah.
And then things will be winding down. So again, we continue to see the warnings in effect for another 6 minutes, it looks like, for some of the spots. They'll be expanded east. I mean, there's
I
no
think they
doubt.
will. I think they have to. Just looking at some of the wind gusts we've seen in Polk County, just with some of those regular storms.
Not that big, though. Look at that. Not
No,
that,
very,
not that
very
large for
small
hail.
hail in this. Maybe pea size at the most for a lot of you. Not unusual. Really hard to get big hail this far south into Florida. I mean, it would have to be. I would think that if we're talking about large hail, we're also talking about organized tornadoes at that point. I mean,
By the way, we're getting a report, Marisol in Pasco, saying power outages in Pasco. Not specifically where. So if you're on my Facebook feed and you're out of power, let us know specifically where you're seeing some of these power outages.
you don't have to give us your address, but at least give us a neighborhood or a part of the city, because then we can go back to the radar and take a look at, okay, well, that area of strong winds that we were looking at radar passed over that neighborhood. So maybe there really are some strong winds making it down to the ground. It really, really helps us. Sometimes what we see on the radar is not exactly what you see in your neighborhood. Sometimes we see 60-mile-an-hour winds, but they're 4,000 feet up, and they never make it down to your house, and you just get a 30-mile-an-hour gust.
River Ridge High School area, no power in Pasco County.
Okay.
We're also hearing reports from the Weather Service, and the Mets there are saying there is a lot of wind just above the surface.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, and what happens is you need something to transport that from up top down to the surface, and that's usually downburst or just a storm that can bring it down. So
really heavy rain.
So there's certainly the possibility that some of that wind can make it back down. But at this point, pretty much what we were anticipating from the start. A line of heavy rain, a line of wind. At this point, luckily, no tornadoes, and keeping our fingers crossed that that'll continue. Mitchell High School area still has no power. Southern Hudson still has no power. So it does sound like, at least at this point, by the way, now raining coming into South Tampa. We're getting these reports on Facebook. It does sound like, and maybe we can, if someone in the control room or out in the desk is listening to us, if they can get us some power totals from FDOT, because it sounds right now that Pasco might be the area that has more power outages than anybody else, just based on the reports that we're getting here.
And I wonder if it's because of the storm that moved through. There is some stronger winds, northern Pasco into southern Hernando County. There was a storm there that the radar was identifying as being a little stronger, kind of popped up ahead of the main line. It's now gotten absorbed, and it's now in portions of eastern Citrus County. So Floral City, Hernando, up to Inverness is where it's impacting. So if you are in Citrus, east side, I would still kind of stay inside, away from windows. There have been some strong winds to your south that could be moving in. The amount of lightning right now just around Pasco and Hernando County really is impressive. I mean, you're talking about just in this small area, 400 lightning strikes in 15 minutes, so 1,600 strikes per hour. All of it, Dennis, basically over 19 from Tarpon Springs all the way up into Spring Hill.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go check with the desk and see if we can get some power outage numbers. Go ahead and take that, and I'll be back in just a second.
So I'll continue to cover this right here. Let's do this. Let's continue to the storm tracks. I know a lot of you are concerned about arrival times and when all of this is going to reach you. So Citrus County, worst of it is probably moving through right now. Some of the heaviest stuff, eastern Citrus County right now, Hernando, Floral City, over towards Inverness. It's about to move out, so I'm not going to do a storm track here. By the way, look at the winds in around Ocala. They've really seen some heavy winds up here, up towards Gainesville. There have been some stronger storms that have moved by. Right now, Hernando County, heaviest of the weather is moving through at this moment. It continues to track toward the northeast. So it's basically out of here. Bushnell by 137. So Hernando, you're in the worst of it. You really start to get into some interesting weather here as you get into Pasco County, because a lot of the storms are off in the western part of the county. The eastern part of the county is yet to be impacted. What did you get, Dennis?
You know, it's interesting, Greg, because I think we're getting reports from Facebook people before FDOT is getting theirs.
Okay.
2,500 out in Citrus County, but here's something you'll find fascinating. 1,500 out in eastern Polk County.
Oh,
it's from those cells that we were talking
with the
about.
gusty winds. Yeah,
exactly.
Isn't that interesting? Because these are not severe. We haven't seen a single warning in Polk County, but we've seen measured winds of 56 miles per hour. And it's what the Weather Service was saying. There's strong winds just above the surface. And if you're outside in any of these areas that are not raining, when you go outside ahead of this line of storms, the clouds above you are just going to be flying. I mean, it looks like a storm day. And all it takes is a little bit of rain to fall into that river of wind, and it pushes it down toward the ground, and you can get these wind gusts. So Pasco County coming into Zephyr Hills, Lacucci, and Dade City, this is headed your way. Dade City, 142. You could get some wind gusts over 50. Claremont, Groveland, Lacucci, 150. Storm track on that. We'll go farther south. Our friends here in Pinellas and Hillsboro County, I'm actually going to track this part of the storm. This is the one that's down here. It's going to cross the Sunshine Skyway and head into Hillsboro and over towards Pinellas. So Ruskin, 2 o'clock, Riverview, 222, Valrico, Plant City, Lakeland, 3 o'clock for some of these storms that have been tracking in from the Gulf of Mexico down to the south and west. Let's go over to Highlands County, because now I'm interested in these storms and what's happening down here. See if we can see any stronger winds in some of these. I'm going to put this into motion, see if we can pick up anything. What'll happen with a downburst is sometimes the red here the red and green really determine what direction the wind is moving through. I'm not really looking for that in this situation. What I'm looking for is just the brightness of the colors. Sometimes when you get a downburst, you'll see a little bright pop of red or a little bright pop of green, indicating there were some strong winds in that location. Nothing that stands out here in Highlands County and Polk. The problem is the two closest radar sites, Melbourne and Tampa, are really far away. So if something is happening near the ground, it would be harder to see here in Highlands and Eastern Polk than in other locations.
Just had a report of power out in Bel Air Bluffs. Again, thank you so much for the Facebook comments. This is really great because we're getting the best of both worlds here. We're getting the instant interaction on Facebook, and we're still streaming. And by the way, I want to note something, too. A lot of folks are saying they don't have cable anymore, and they're able to watch us on the stream, which they've been unable to do otherwise. So thank you to the folks who are letting us know what your needs are, because that's kind of why we're here. We're sitting here out here trying to get all the information to keep your guys safe.
And if we have not mentioned your community, this is what makes this so beautiful. You can get on Dennis's Facebook page and say, hey, what about name the city, and we can go in and take a look and see what's going on. So if you feel like I've neglected some part of the Bay Area, please let us know.
Actually, Jennifer just said we keep missing Pinellas Park.
Okay, so, Pinellas Park.
There you go.
I was just there at a school yesterday. It seems like such long ago. Community Christian Academy, I think it was called. So let's zoom into Pinellas Park and show you exactly what's going on. So Pinellas Park right now, you're getting light to moderate rain, but just off to your west and southwest is where the heaviest of the rain is, and it is moving your way. I'm not going to do a storm track on this because I can tell you it's less than 5 minutes away, because it's already coming down in Seminole and it's coming down on the beaches. So Pinellas Park, it is moving your way. In here, let's take a look at the wind, see what Pinellas Park is seeing. There are some little bursts here. See a little bright blip there? Offshore, I'm not seeing anything over Pinellas Park or Seminole, however, that is making me believe you're going to see anything stronger than what we've already seen.
Okay, we're going to have to do a speed forecast on these now, because we open up Pandora's box, because now everybody is throwing their town in.
Let's start the Grand Bay Area tour.
So we're going to start with Oldsmar and Seminole and Brandon.
So I'm already going to include Seminole in the Pinellas Park overview, because we already saw that. So Oldsmar, you're right here. Right there near the Pinellas, Hillsboro County line, heaviest of the weather moving in right now. So over the next 30 minutes, 50-mile-an-hour winds, heavy rain, frequent lightning.
Fishhawk.
Fishhawk, let's do
And
Fishhawk
Brandon.
and Brandon. We can group some of these because they are in a very similar area. So we're talking about eastern or southern, depending on how you do it, Hillsboro County. There's nothing going on right now. Fishhawk, Brandon, Riverview, Valrico. I'm going to group you guys here together because you're right next to each other. Notice the rain is still off to the west and southwest, just tracking the light rain out of, let's do this with the two fingers, out of Pinellas County into Hillsboro. Riverview, Valrico, Brandon, about 2 o'clock. So we've been doing these tracks depending on what you track. The light rain in Riverview at 2 o'clock, but I don't think Brandon, Valrico, Fishhawk, Riverview are going to see the heavy part of the storm until about 2:15 or 2:20.
Okay, Carolina wants to know about South Tampa.
South Tampa,
And
that's
she said
easy.
thank you, by the way. So that was,
Oh.
you know, so she gets
Thank
first.
yous will get extra tracking priority this afternoon. So South Tampa, there you go. You can actually see it. There's Dale Mabry, new severe thunderstorm warning just issued, actually. Hold on. Carolyn was her name. You're under a severe thunderstorm warning now. It was just issued for Citrus, Hernando, Hillsboro, Manatee, Pasco, Pinellas, Sumter. Everyone along the line, basically. Yeah. This is an all-inclusive. If the thunderstorms are headed your way, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning until 2:30. So that now includes South Tampa. Light rain is moving into South Tampa, McDill Air Force Base right now. It is heading down the Gandy and the Howard Franklin. Heavier rain farther north. And if you were to do a storm track on the heaviest part of the storm that would impact South Tampa, this would be the part, and we would be talking about it arriving a little bit, so between 142 and the Rattlesnake community at 152. So, Carolyn, I would say 145 or so, the heaviest part of the storm is going to head your way, so 25 minutes.
Okay, Michael asked Wesley Chapel, and Mike asked Citrus Park. And we have some more information coming up.
All right.
Boy, we're getting, thanks, Dan. We're getting a lot of reports of wind. Not necessarily damage, but I mean, most everybody on the Facebook feed right now is saying, whoa, all of a sudden things are really popping. So they're probably in the areas that are now, hey, what was that? Yeah, what was that?
Yeah,
report
just
right
clicking
there?
on that. So we've got a
Holiday.
trees down your holiday, thunderstorm wind damage.
Yeah, and I think no matter where you live, what just happened in Holiday could happen in your neighborhood.
Speaking of Wesley Chapel, I mean, this is headed towards Wesley Chapel. So the person that asked about Wesley Chapel, Michael, hey, you've got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. This is headed towards 75 now. It's heading right down 54. You look down toward Holiday, we had trees down. So, Dennis, I would not be surprised if Odessa, Keystone, Lutz, Lando Lakes, and Wesley Chapel, if we saw periodic reports of tree branches down, maybe an isolated tree down like we saw here in Holiday.
And by the way, closures. The Sugar Sand Festival is closing at noon, so I guess it is closed and will stay closed until the storms pass. Skyway, still closed. If you can see behind me, no cars there. And if you plan on flying out of TIA, please check with your airline for any potential delays or cancellations before arriving because there was a ground stop. My guess is that'll probably last another hour.
And what they're probably also doing is slowing the routing of the aircraft in. Aircraft are probably either circling or they're trying to land. They're just putting more space between the aircraft. So if you've got a flight planned for later on in the afternoon, this is the time to get crafty. You search your flight number on Google. And don't go to the airline site. Go to one of those flight tracking sites, and you can click and see where your airplane is right now, because it's probably likely that if you're flying out at 4, 5, 6 o'clock this evening, your plane is coming from somewhere else, and it's got to get through this line of storms and into Tampa. It's going to do that, and they're going to do it safely. The problem is it's going to take more time. So your flight out of Tampa later tonight may also be delayed, even though by the time you're ready to go, the worst of the weather will be behind us. It's all about the plane coming in. Trust me, I've dealt with these issues quite some time. You just got to be patient with these airlines. They're trying to get the airplanes in here very, very safely. Severe thunderstorm warning. By the way, I am going to mention this, Dennis, is that this does include some new areas that we previously really weren't mentioning as being warned. So that's going to be eastern and southern Hillsboro, and now portions of Manatee County. From about the southern end of Anna Maria, that's Coquina Beach, north into Pinellas. So St. Pete, you know, downtown Bradenton, you're right on the line with this one, but Parrish and Ellington definitely are Apollo Beach, Ruskin, Waimama, Fishhawk, Brandon, Riverview, all under that severe thunderstorm warning.
And just got a question about Tarpon Springs, asking, how long this is going to be until it moves through. Pretty quickly. I'd say that, in fact, you can argue that the worst is now just winding down in Tarpon Springs.
Here's what I like to do. We often track the front of these lines. Let's track the back edge of this. So 35 miles an hour heading west. The back edge is going to reach East Lake, or about Tarpon Springs, if this holds together, in about an hour. Now, some of this is tracking northeast, so I would give it some wiggle room, maybe as late as 3 o'clock. But you're looking at about an hour and a half at least of some steady rain before this moves out. Tarpon Springs, Palm Harbor, East Lake, for sure.
Some people have been talking about a tornado. No, we've had no reports. And this happens often. When there's trees down, when there's damage, people immediately think, one, I just heard a freight train, and two, it was a tornado.
Or, honestly, Dennis, oftentimes I have to remember that maybe not everyone's aware. Just because you hear tornado watch doesn't mean there's a tornado, okay? Those are two different things. Basically, what a tornado watch means, the conditions are right for maybe a tornado to form, but when a tornado watch is issued, there haven't been any tornadoes. There may not be any tornadoes happening. There may not be any tornadoes at all in our area out of this.
This means the conditions are right.
Conditions are right, but it does not mean that a tornado has been spotted. It's the warning. That's when you really got to pay attention. A warning means we either see it on radar, conditions in the thunderstorm look like they're producing a tornado, or someone has actually spotted a tornado. I suspect the majority of any kind of damage that we see today out of this line of storms, all wind damage.
Yeah.
It's all just going to be straight line wind damage.
And coastal flooding is still something we also don't want to minimize. There's a chance, not to mention, not just from the rain, but the fact that the winds are so strong, they have been all day, and they will be tonight and tomorrow, by the way. Once this is gone, we are still going to be very windy through tomorrow. So there could be some piling up of water a little bit. I mean, nothing like a tropical storm, but you may, if you live along the coast, especially in Citrus County, maybe Hernando, you could see a little bit of flooding issues as well. But what we're talking about now is, as Greg's showing there,
50-mile-an-hour wind in Brooksville reported.
And what was on the way is now beginning to roll into Hillsboro County, whereas it's just now starting from Tampa and eventually over to the east side. It'll be another half hour, 45 minutes before they really get it on the act, but you will. Now, we've got a live shot from Clearwater Beach, and the winds have been pretty steady along the beach. There it is. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Doesn't that look like something you'd see in a tropical storm?
Yeah, it really does. And it's the extent of it. I was checking out the cameras on 19 earlier, and it's just the same shot over and over. Wind and blinding rain, wind and blinding rain. That's all we've been seeing.
And yet, I think a lot of folks, fortunately, most folks are going to be looking at this and saying, tomorrow, you know what, it rained some, and we had some lightning. Hey,
I'll take it.
One, that's what we were forecasting, and two, that's what we always wanted to hear. Now, this is from Pass-A-Grille, and this is the live drive out there going around, and at this point, we're kind of waiting to see, and hopefully, the only thing we've actually heard of is the tree down in Holiday. I have not heard of any additional damage, and I haven't seen any on Facebook as well. By the way, just had a report from Erica, lost power in East Lake.
Okay.
And Seminole City Center area, gusty rain squall. So we are definitely getting more of that. But at this point in time, fortunately, as I'm reading through the feed, I'm just not seeing any damage. So far, that's just awesome.
And, one of the ways that this is different from a typical summertime thunderstorm is in the summer, you may get that thunderstorm and you talk to your friend down the street and they're like, what thunderstorm? They didn't get a drop at my house. This is going to be one of those events where you're going to talk to your friend in the town next over and be like, oh yeah, we got that too. And you should see what came with ours. We got the gusty winds too, or we lost power, it flickered on and off. So this is something that we're all going to share in this afternoon that everyone is going to see at some point because of the extent of the line. I mean, we are solidly raining from the northern extent of our viewing area that ABC Action News covers in northern Citrus County all the way down to now almost Bradenton. And when this line continues to shift east, we're going to talk about the entire length of our area. From southern Sarasota up to Citrus, we're going to be raining at the same time, and that only continues to move east. Interesting, Dennis, to see this kind of fill in with some of these cells out here. The Orlando area headed out back out towards up towards Ocala, and then northeast Florida. And then these storms here in Highlands that we're getting some lightning here. Avon Park, Sebring, Lake Placid over toward Frostproof haven't had reports of damage, but some of you are reporting some gusty winds, and we did see that one over 50 mile an hour wind gust, 56 in Polk County. out of just these little downpours with a couple of lightning strikes. They're not severe, but the conditions are right. There's another storm report there, Dennis, of some more probably. This is going to be wind damage. Let's get in close.
Yeah, when the little icon shows a little tree down, you know it has something to do with wind or the wind blowing over. By the way, we're hearing a lot of reports of power flickering. You just mentioned that. We're getting that all over the place now.
So it's trees
Still
down
the
your
trees down
Holiday. Let's see if that's, maybe it's a duplicate
another one.
report.
Let me look on the storm report from the,
See if they
from
got
the Weather Service
another
in the
one
chat.
there. This is Newport Richey, tree down near Newport Richey. So
Yeah.
Newport Richey and Holiday all
Within
seeing
1 minute of each other. So clearly it's the same line.
a little gust front moving through,
Yep.
right? It just kind of lines up along the coast. So now, if you live farther to the east of this, Pasco and Hernando County heads up Wesley Chapel. We've had now 2 reports at the same time when this was coming in to Holiday and Newport Richey of trees down. So anyone here from Lando Lakes, let's go back out. Let's just see if this will let me zoom out. Lando Lakes, Lutz, over towards Wesley Chapel, you all have that chance of seeing additional trees down. So travel on the Suncoast, travel on 41, 75. You really got to be careful. High profile vehicles, that kind of deal. These winds are going to come in. They're going to blow west to east across 75, perpendicular to 41, the Suncoast. If you head enough farther south, the Veterans, and it's coming down heavily on the Veterans now, heading into Pinellas County. This is going to be a really tough drive this morning, this afternoon, as you head to the north. I'm going to see if I can find some cameras out here on the Veterans, see if we can.
I want to mention
get a
too,
view.
just had a report from the Weather Service saying that Clearwater Beach had a wind gust of about 60 miles an hour when it came in. So that would actually verify the severe thunderstorm warning that was issued. Again, picking up so many folks, thank you for sharing what's going on in your area. Just hearing some thunder in the Gulfport area now. Actually, Gulfport should have had it for quite a while, you would think. I got to scroll down because they really come in pretty quickly. Oldsmar, lots of lightning right now in Oldsmar, heavy rain in Hudson still. And even though the worst of it is over in those areas along Pasco County North, you're still going to be picking up some heavy rain. And as you see over my shoulder, the Skyway is still closed, still a full ground stop at TIA. So we continue to hear a lot about that. And just started raining now in Land O'Lakes. We're hearing that. Folks are asking how long this is going to last. In any given spot, the rain is going to last a couple hours, 2-3 hours. The rough stuff, the heavy stuff that is at the beginning of it, it's not on the backside. Once you get the first 30 minutes out of the way, things will gradually improve. I think Greg's changing the source over there.
Sorry there, Dennis.
Oh, that's all right. Changing the source for the cams. And again, there's just another view of that. That's just always freaks me out when I see that and you look out and you don't see any cars that are out there and all. And truthfully, the winds have been gusting across even before the rains arrived. Gusting at about 40 to 45 miles an hour, covering everybody. So again, if you're just tuning in, whether you're on Facebook over this side, whether you're streaming in on the app, and if you're on Facebook just tuning in, again, we are streaming live on our Roku app. You just go to abcactionnews.com. On Roku, you download the app for free, and it immediately streams what we're doing. Same thing on our website, abcactionnews.com. Storm Shield is our free weather alert app, which you just go on Google or Apple iTunes and look over Storm Shield. It's a free download, and it immediately notifies you when there's severe weather down to your zip codes. Now, we are hearing that all inbound flights are being held at their origin until 2:30 due to the thunderstorms. We're getting that from TIA. So if you are expecting anybody to flying in today, no matter where they are, they're not leaving until after 2:30 until things begin to improve. So,
and that's actually a shot near the airport, Dennis. So this is going to be the Veterans at US 60. So this is basically the tail end of the Veterans, which you see behind Dennis there. And you see heavy rain is falling, maybe some gusty winds with that as well. I'm not seeing anything too intense. Dennis, you've got another radar view there at your computer. You don't know if you're seeing anything that that is showing some intense winds. If there's maybe any pockets of heavy wind, that's coming maybe into Manatee. I mean, just anywhere along this line. Maybe Manatee County?
Yeah, west of Bradenton, maybe about 5 miles west of Bradenton, down southwest.
But definitely not tornadic.
Area. No, there is no spin. I mean, that's the one thing that kind of surprised me. Even before we had a watch, I just figured we'd have at least one or two water spouts. Thanks, Joey. 1 or 2 water spouts, and we have not had anyway. Skyway, again, still closed to the high winds. Citrus County, 2,500 people without power. Pinellas, 200 people without power. Polk, 2,200. And again, that's
2,200.
fascinating.
That is interesting.
Because that's either the wind that was out ahead of it or those storms that we were talking about. But yeah, I'm looking at another radar source and also reports of 44-knot wind gust in Brooksville at the airport. Auburndale had a 48-mile gust. And then the trees down from Pasco County and Port Richey and also in Holiday within a 1-minute period. That happened at 1:18 and 1:19. But yeah, looking at the radar, we're fortunate right now that what we are picking up is just a solid area of straight line winds. We get them in the summertime all the time. You know the feeling. We're out there. You look at this line. It's a significant area of rain. The lightning, all you got to do is look at the red area right now, and that is now past the coast. So here's the bottom line if you live along the coast. If you live from St. Pete Beach northward, the worst is over. Now you're still going to have heavy rain. You're still going to see some lightning. But the leading edge, the area that was severe, that worst is over. And in fact, you look at it, there are really no more warnings in that area. So the area that we're talking that's most intense is probably only about, an area maybe 15, 20 minutes in width as it comes across. In fact, let's head on back to the wall over here, or rather the big monitor here. There we go. And there it is. So if you go ahead and look here at box zoom, there we go. All right, there's the worst of it right there. Lutz, Carrollwood, areas in around there, you're about to see the worst of it. It's up through east of Trinity now. There it goes, through coming up on New Tampa, headed up toward USF. A lot of folks were upset because they wanted to ride the new ride today over at Busch Gardens, and maybe this evening, but certainly not this afternoon. So there's the heavy, right over the bay itself, through Safety Harbor, over toward Rocky Point, down towards South Tampa. It's on the way. The port, it's on the way. But if you live really pretty much from just west of Oldsmar, all of coastal Pinellas County, worst is over. It's done. Well, the heavy stuff. You're still getting rain, gusty winds. Now, let me rephrase. The severe threat has ended. There's still gusty winds of 30 to 40 miles an hour. There's still quite a bit of rain. And in St. Pete Beach right now, we've actually got a live picture. And the winds are going at about 35 to 45 miles an hour. So it is definitely coming on out there. And not to mention just the heavy rain. You can see there's where the Don Cesar, or is that the Vinoy? Looks like the Don Cesar. And as they're driving around there, you can see, not too bad. I'm really surprised, a couple of things. No reports of any hail. And that I figured we'd at least hear a couple of folks that might have seen some hail up in Citrus County. And fortunately, as we were saying last night, the threat of a tornado was extremely slim. And so far, that is pretty much verified. This has just been a solid squall line. And one that I think a lot of folks later tonight will say, all right, well, we've had some power outages, some flickers. We've had a couple of reports of trees down. But all in all, at least so far, we've been pretty fortunate. Now, this is going to continue to move east, and we're now under a severe thunderstorm warning for pretty much the rest of Hillsboro County. So you're getting yours over the next hour, but I think it's probably safe to say that it'll likely be a little bit weaker than it was along the coast. Because what often happens is as these storms blow in out over the water, there's no friction there, and there's a pretty decent chance that they hang together. But once the air travels over land, they have a tendency to weaken a little bit. And we showed you those two storm reports. Those little markers right there are the trees down. But if all we end up seeing are some trees down, a couple of trees down, even remember in Seminole, back in November, we had a similar line, very similar to this, and that brief EF3 tornado developed and did some pretty significant damage in Seminole. It was a small area. Because, if you're new to the area, when we talk about tornadoes, I think a lot of people, especially if you come from up north, you think, oh boy, I think of the plains. I think of those monster tornadoes that they get up there. We just rarely, if ever, see that kind of stuff. What we typically see are very small tornadoes, maybe no more than 50 yards wide. And they have winds of about 70, 75, maybe 80 miles an hour, which can do some damage, but they're there for 15 seconds and they're very small. So when we cover such a massive area that we do from Citrus County all the way down to Sarasota and all the way east to Highlands, overall in the scheme of things, the chances of you seeing that in your neighborhood are incredibly small. And right now, probably even smaller than that because the threat just so far isn't there.
Can we take this full screen Doppler? This is just moving into the Sunshine Skyway, and we probably are going to see the bridge disappear here. Just saw a flash of lightning. This is a live FDOT camera. What you're looking at is the southern rest area out there pointed toward the north and west. So we're looking up towards St. Pete from the Manatee County side of the bridge. And it really is incredible what's moving in there. This is probably one of the stronger sections in these thunderstorms that we're seeing move in right now. We're going to see flashes of lightning from time to time. This is why no one is on the bridge right now, because inside of those storms, there are wind gusts easily over 50 miles an hour. And at the bridge level, this is the concern. When you go up 200 feet above the Gulf of Mexico, well, that wind, crosswind, could now be 60, 65 miles an hour. And obviously we cannot have vehicles out on the bridge with winds quite that strong. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for southern Pinellas, southern Hillsboro, and there's the Sunshine Skyway. That's the view you were just looking at live just a couple of seconds ago. And you see the strongest part of the storm is just approaching the Sunshine Skyway. We can put a storm track on it, tracking it toward the north and east. So now this is not just Pinellas and the Sunshine Skyway, but Ruskin, 233, Waimama, 245. Maybe this could swing through Riverview in the next hour or so. So by 2:52, if it continues tracking northeast, we could be talking about 71, 301 in the Tamiami Trail. That's 41 that runs here down into Apollo Beach. This is going to be a pretty heavy thunderstorm with some pretty strong winds, Dennis.
But I think just to remind folks, it's probably going to be like we get in the summertime.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's now at this point, the tornado threat is still there. We're still in a watch. But as you can kind of read between the lines, we saw the watch, but at the same time, we've never really been that concerned about the tornado threat. It was always about these straight line winds and the heavy rain. And more than anything, I think just the fact that we're getting these strong thunderstorm winds. So if you've lived here through a summertime thunderstorm, I think what you're going to experience later on today might last longer. The rain certainly is going to last longer. So if you have plans tonight, I mean, these rains are going to last at any given spot for a total of probably 3 hours before things begin to wind down. But that severe threat is only about 20, 25, 30 minutes, which is often what we see in the summer, maybe just a little bit broader scale. Well, obviously broader scale, because how many times in the summer is it pouring at your house and across the street it's sunny, right? I mean, we all know that as Floridians, but with this area, everybody's going to get it. Now, we might look back and say that's not a bad thing. Maybe half an inch to an inch of rain anytime in April and May is good because it kind of limits the fire dangers. Did they just extend a new severe thunderstorm warning for the Orlando area?
That's going to be the Orlando area up towards Claremont and over towards Orange County. So that's going to be away from us. And some of these storms out ahead of this main line may be getting a little stronger farther north. But for us, gusty winds moving into Tampa now. So South Tampa, you're getting it now. It's out there by the new development there on the end of the Gandy, the Marina District now heading into South Tampa. Bayshore, light rain now heading over towards Channel Side, Ybor City, Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights, Sulphur Springs, Temple Terrace. Everyone's filling in with the light rain. The heavier stuff is going to come about 5 to 10 minutes after the light rain starts. And again, a stronger wind gust is possible. That would not be unusual from what we've seen from this storm. 50, 55 miles an hour seems to be where this storm has produced most of its winds, and that's probably what we're going to see through the afternoon. The difference between this maybe and a summer storm is instead of one tiny neighborhood getting that heavy downpour and no one else around it, this one's going to cover a large area, and I think more of us are going to see gusty winds than maybe we would typically see on an ordinary summer afternoon as this line of storms moves through. And as Dennis was mentioning, just behind the red and the orange where the heaviest of the rain is and some of the strong winds are, there's just a large swath of yellow and green. That indicates light to moderate rain. Steady, solid, light to moderate rain. It could continue for an hour and a half after the initial batch moves by. It's going to be cooler behind this initial batch too. So out ahead of this rain, Tampa, Lakeland, you've been in the 80s so far today. Behind this line, eventually that temperature is going to get pushed down to the low 70s by this evening. So if you're heading out tonight, it's going to feel a whole lot different than it's feeling like right now this afternoon. Dennis?
Got a couple things. Power outage now, 200 power outages reported in Pinellas, still 2,500 in Citrus, 2,200 in Polk. I did hear, did hear that the Sunshine Park in Newport Richey has no power, so we are still getting reports. It's interesting because we're getting a lot from Pasco, and yet we're not seeing any reports, at least so far officially, that there were. So.
Yeah, it is very interesting how the places that seem, by looking at the radar, should maybe not be affected that much were the ones that were getting a lot of power outages at, reports of tree limbs or trees down. That could be a combination of lightning and wind. And you know, we did see a lot of lightning move into Pasco County.
You already mentioned this, but Ed just asked a question, the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning. I like the meme that comes out that a tornado watch, when it shows the mean lady in The Wizard of Oz when she's riding her bike down, and then the tornado warning is when she turns into the Wicked Witch.
Yes.
so a watch means it's probably going to happen, or there's a chance it could happen. A warning means it is happening right now. Now, tornado warnings and hurricane warnings are totally different.
Correct.
A tornado warning means there's either one been spotted by an observer or by someone at home saying, I just saw a tornado, and they call the weather service and they issue a warning, or there's a Doppler radar signature of a tornado. Then a warning is issued. We have not had a tornado warning, not one. Most of the area under a watch, meaning the conditions were ripe. We certainly could see and still can, because that watch remains in effect for another couple of hours, but that threat along the coast is now pretty much over from Pinellas County northward, because it is over. I mean, all you got to do is look here. I mean, there along the coast, it is over.
If you live along 19, you're done, basically.
Right. Now, there's where there still is a threat, and if you extend down to the south, then there's still a possibility in western Manatee or Sarasota. But from Pinellas County north along the coast, west of US 19, your severe threat is over. And I want to mention this too. Someone just mentioned on Facebook, you know, why, and this pushes a button with me. We've talked about this in the past. Why are they hyping this storm up? We're doing everything except hyping these storms up. But what we're trying to do, our goal at this point in time, is we're in a whole new age, right? Where we have how many sources to get information out there.
And I think that's what often makes it confusing, is you log on to social media and you see 15 posts about the same thing and you're thinking that's hype. What we're doing is we're posting multiple times throughout the day about the same event, because I don't know how aware you are of Facebook, but when we post something, not everyone sees it. Only a select number of people get to see it, and Facebook decides who gets to see that post. So we repost because we want to make sure that the information gets out to anybody. Just because we post about something several times doesn't mean it's going to be some crazy, gigantic storm.
And our goal is to get every bit of information out there we can, bottom line.
Correct.
And if it comes out over and over again, I guess so be it, but I would hate to be, I told a story back when Charlie was coming in 2004. We had someone in a mobile home park in Polk County call me. Back then it was calling still.
Yeah.
And they said, should we evacuate our mobile home and go to the shelter? And I said, yeah, I think you should, because mobile homes are the worst place to be when a storm coming. Well, a giant tree crashed on that mobile home and went right on the person's bed. They called me 2 days later and said I would have died if you had not told me to leave. So I hear stories like that, and while they're rare, fortunately for our area, it just reminds us that our goal is just to get things out to keep people safe. And with this particular storm, I don't think you've one time heard us say, oh, this is going to be a life-threatening situation. But this is still heavy weather, 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds, and if those trees that fell in Holiday or Newport Richey fell on your car and you're in it, you'd be singing another song.
And you know, we actually had that happen this morning in Atlanta with this storm. I was watching the Twitter feed. There was not a tornado, strong wind gust, a tree toppled on top of what was an empty sanctuary at a church at that time, cut it in half. And there was no tornado. It's just a strong gusty wind, and that's why we want to make sure you know where these storms are, because some of those strong winds, a large tree branch or a tree could fall and do damage to a house or a car, and you've got to be aware of where that's happening.
So why don't you do a little more tracking? I'll go over and I'll continue to answer questions back and forth with what we got going.
So we'll start with the wider view. We've got our severe thunderstorm warning that now extends from basically Bradenton and Anna Maria all the way to the north, now through portions of Hernando over towards, I don't believe Citrus, Citrus may be in this one because their storms are just exiting. So let's start up to the north. We'll work our way south so that everyone knows exactly what's going on. As far as Citrus County, I would say you are basically done with the strongest part of the storm. The severe weather threat in Citrus County is about to end. The one last community that's still in it is Floral City. In the next 10 minutes, it's going to move out. In Hernando County, If you live along the Suncoast Parkway west toward 19, your severe weather threat is also done. The strongest part of the storms are now from Brooksville and 41 east toward the Sumter County line, towards 75. This is where we're seeing the strongest parts of the storm in Hernando County, Pasco County, 41 west toward the coast, toward 19. Severe weather is done. It's raining. There's a lot of lightning still left behind here, but we are no longer going to see those damaging winds. Where we are going to see the threat of the stronger winds, that's going to be Wesley Chapel, Zephyr Hills, Dade City. If you live along 301, 75, and 41, this is the part of Pasco that's still got the stronger storms. Pinellas County, you're actually probably doing the best out of all of these because I can almost give you an all clear here as you're getting lightning and rain. Now, I'm not saying it's safe to go outside. There's still a lot of lightning here. But Pinellas, in terms of the severe weather, it's now leaving Pinellas and it's entering Hillsboro. Speaking of which, in Hillsboro County, the only places that are really out of it, that would be western and northwestern portions of Hillsboro County, West Chase, Keystone, back up maybe just west of Lutz. Tampa 275, heavy weather moving through right now. And in the eastern and southern portions of the county, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning and it is still to reach you. Plant City, Thornado-Sassa, Fishhawk, Riverview, Brandon, Valrico, Apollo Beach, Ruskin, all the way down to Ellington Parish. These are all areas that have yet to see the strongest part of this storm. Farther south, Manatee County. It's everything west of 75. That's where the storms are now. They're towards Bradenton and Anna Maria. If you're east of 75 towards Mayaca, you're still waiting for them. Sarasota, the rain is just moving in right now, and it's going to take some time to reach you. So you still have a while before it gets to you. Polk, Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands. Looks like we're getting some bad radar data, by the way.
Yeah,
it's
still
storming in Highlands County, but the line has yet to reach you, and that's not going to be until maybe 3, 4, 5 o'clock later on tonight. So you're going to be waiting here as these storms approach. Maybe we had a lightning hit near the radar. I mean, that's certainly possible too.
But I do think it's probably safe to say that this line looked, well, you can loop it actually and go back and see what it looked like before, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. So clearly there's something going on. But I think it's probably safe to say this is not going to get any stronger. In fact, it probably will weaken a little bit over the next hour as it continues to move east. So if you live in Polk County, Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands, or even central and eastern Hillsboro County, you could still see 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds, but I think it's pretty unlikely you're going to see much more than that.
Polk County might have actually seen its worst weather with these showers moving by than the actual line that's going to move through with that 56-mile-an-hour wind gust in Lakeland. Yeah, I definitely don't think this is going to get any stronger. And honestly, just looking at some of the behind-the-scenes data, the tornado parameters, if there were to be an isolated tornado, are up here.
Yeah.
They're Jacksonville, Gainesville, Daytona Beach.
And those areas had a higher risk.
Correct.
The Storm Prediction Center had actually a moderate risk for areas in the Carolinas. We were on the fringe from the beginning.
Down here, much lower threat, and if there is anything that's going to happen down here with this line is exactly what we've been seeing. Strong, gusty, just thunderstorm winds, minor damage, maybe to like a tree branch or a tree. We're not going to see, just because we're in the tornado watch doesn't mean we're going to see a big tornado event here.
And you can also see the density of the lightning is not, when it was offshore, there was just more lightning.
Yeah.
And now as we're looking at our live view, although again, the live view might be a little tainted in terms of the rain, but you're just not seeing as much lightning.
No.
But let's not minimize, every single lightning strike is 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 times hotter than the sun. Now, as Floridians, we know this, but I think we kind of take lightning for granted, and it's still a very dangerous thing. And down south, from Bradenton down to Sarasota, Siesta Key, Osprey, this area is still looking pretty healthy, and that's going to move on shore. And there's still an outside chance that there could be a quick little spin up. I'll never write that chance off.
Especially with water spouts down here. If there is anything Sarasota County, you got to watch those water spouts because as soon as it rolls on shore, it becomes a tornado, and then it's when the Weather Service is going to issue a warning for it if someone spots it. But typically with those, we don't see a lot of impacts from this. Yeah, they're on the weaker side, usually EF zeros if you see a water spout.
And again, reminding folks that tornado watch is in effect. We have not seen a tornado warning. There have been no warnings issued, so there have been no tornadoes. What we've seen, though, is 40, 50, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and that's strong. That's tropical. I mean, think about if we had a tropical storm warning out there, everybody would be running around freaking out.
Yeah.
Just because it's the nature that we think about with a tropical storm. Today, you can argue we had a 30-minute tropical storm move through because these winds had easily been 40 to 50 for everybody starting along the coast. So this has been a real thing.
It is interesting, and everyone's complaining, why do you keep hyping this up?
Yeah.
But then if it's a tropical storm, if we name it,
Then all of a sudden, yeah,
it's okay to hype
you
it up.
get it. But on this stream here, what we love about having the opportunity, and Greg and I have talked about this a lot of times.
Help us help you.
Yeah, and our goal here is we don't have to worry about commercial breaks. Right now, we are just here trying to answer your questions, letting you know what's happened on a Friday, where a lot of people are off school, as it is, because it's Good Friday. And fortunately, we're in an opportunity here that we can sit here and just kind of hang out for a few hours and get you through this without freaking everybody out, and then leading into the weekend that's going to be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Saturday looks a little tricky in the beginning, but when you step out the door and you see some clouds and a couple of raindrops, I don't want you to freak out. Okay, Saturday's going to improve. I was looking at it this morning. I'm pretty confident by the afternoon. It's going to feel great. Sunday, though.
Easter Sunday, perfect.
That may be one of the best days of the spring. I mean, 76, sunny, very little wind. If you like to go to a sunrise church service on Sunday morning, it is going to be a little cool. I think that may be a little shock. I think we'll see a lot of 50s around. And that's going to be a nice change. But yeah, the weekend's looking great. We just got to get through all this rain.
So let's go ahead and zoom a little more and do a little more tracking here, because there's a lot of folks that have been waiting for this to come in, and now they're just beginning to get it. Why don't you go ahead and from Zephyr Hills, Dade City down to track that, and I'll answer more questions over here as well.
Let's do some arrival time. So let's start. It's actually about to move into downtown Tampa now. So we'll track it from downtown Tampa. Let's just track it through eastern and northeastern Hillsboro County. So you see Palm River, Seffner, Dover between now and 2:18. Plant City, 2:28. Winston and the Lakeland area by 2:47. This is tracking it down I-4. So if you've got travel plans from Tampa to Lakeland, this is going to be right behind you. And it's going to be behind you at about 35 to 40 miles an hour. It will catch up heading up towards Lakeland in the next 30 minutes or so. We can do another storm track. We'll do this one farther south. So now let's track this stuff over the bay. It's heading into Ruskin, Riverview, Apollo Beach. So Ruskin, 203, Fishhawk, 230, the Welcome Community at 240, Bealsville, 247, Winston, and again, that southern extent of it, maybe towards Lakeland by about 2 or 3 o'clock. I want to get Riverview and Brandon in this as well. So this is going to be your personalized storm track here for Riverview and Brandon. We'll start you off at MacDill Air Force Base and then track it into eastern Hillsboro County. So Riverview 215, Brandon 222, Valrico 227, Turkey Creek and Plant City by 241. Some lightning with this heavy rain. We're not getting any major reports of some strong winds, though something new here popped up. Looks like from Pinellas County. So marine thunderstorm weather flow site at Indian Shores, 50 miles an hour.
Hey, speaking of Pinellas County, our live drive is actually live in the St. Pete area right now. St. Pete Beach, I'm not sure which it was, probably St. Pete Beach. And look at the water. And this is something that we were talking about. We're coming up on high tide right now. So at high tide, with a west wind blowing water in, and you get a very heavy area of rain, we are going to start to see some flooding in the spots that usually flood. And look at the mainsail there. I mean, you tell me that does not look like a tropical storm, right?
And they're in the worst of it now. Looking at the radar, this is just south of where they just had that 50-mile-an-hour wind reported in southern Pinellas County. So this is what you see. And you saw in the live drive view, there was a trash can in the road. This morning, one of the graphics I used said you're going to be looking for your trash can in your neighbor's yard. And that's exactly what we're getting. We're getting 50 to 55-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and that's blowing the trash cans everywhere. So be careful out there. Getting out of your neighborhood may be an issue. High water in some spots, ponding, and, of course, debris in the road. Anna Maria, we were looking at the mainsail right there. The deep reds here, that indicates very heavy rain, frequent lightning, and we're getting those strong gusty winds. It's going to move into Bradenton, Parrish, Ellington. Let's track that one spot for you. So we'll start it off near Anna Maria. We'll take it into Manatee and southern Hillsboro, Holmes Beach, Palmetto 212, Ellington 216, Parrish and Waimama coming up on 230 to 245.
Getting some more power outage reports. Greg, this is from Todd. He actually copy and pasted the Duke Energy report saying an outage reported in your area for the Bel Air Beach area impact. Hopefully have it back on by 6:15 tonight. So We are still getting some power outage reports in Pinellas County. I would not be surprised if we see some in Manatee based on what we're seeing right there.
Yeah, Egmont Channel, 53-mile-an-hour wind gusts right now. So this is a good preview. If you're watching from Tampa, Brandon, Riverview, Ruskin, Apollo Beach, Waimama, Bradenton, exactly what we saw up north in Pasco County is now happening farther south along the line. 50 to 55-mile-an-hour winds. Enough to cause sporadic power outages, blow around trash cans, maybe down a couple of small trees or tree branches. This is not a major issue, and as Dennis has been saying, this is something that we almost see on a daily basis with our summer thunderstorms. The difference is here, this is a summer thunderstorm that extends over the entire Bay Area from Citrus County down into Sarasota, and everyone's going to get some chunk of this rain as we go into the rest of the afternoon, and that includes Sarasota.
Hey, Greg, I want to mention one thing. So a lot of people on Facebook saying, can you show us the same thing on Facebook that you guys are showing on the app? And the answer is no. You have to download the app. You go to Roku or you go to Amazon on your Fire Stick. You just literally put in the search bar ABC Action News. And you click on it, and when you do, and we're getting this from a lot of folks saying that they don't have cable anymore. They've cut the cord, and they're able to watch us and see what's going on without cable by using the streaming. So whether you go on abcactionnews.com and just actually stream right there, or you download the app. It's a free download on Roku. It's a free download on the Amazon Fire Stick. And again, you have the ability, whether Apple TV, all of the above, you have the ability to watch our streams. Now, it isn't constant programming on ABC. It's local programming when we stream and we see that there's severe weather or breaking news or whatever the case may be. So in a situation like this, it allows us to interact with you live, real time on Facebook, while at the same time streaming for everybody else. So I think it's just amazing technology because it never used to have the interaction. Now you can literally ask me a question on Facebook and we're answering it real time as it goes. And I can't think of a better service than being able to do that. And if you have cut the cable, and cut the cord, and a lot of folks have, it's a way to still keep in touch.
Hey, something new here, Dennis. We've pared down the tornado watch. It now only extends for Pinellas, Hillsboro, Pasco, and Hernando, and we've replaced it, more sensibly, with a severe thunderstorm watch. That's the counties in yellow. So if you are watching from Polk, Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands, Manatee, and Sarasota, some of you were under a tornado watch earlier. You are now under a severe thunderstorm watch. That is a marked change from where we were just about a few minutes ago. The Weather Service is looking at this part of the storm and saying, you know what? Chances of a tornado are pretty low. Now, you can still get an isolated tornado in a severe thunderstorm watch. That's possible. But as Dennis and I have been tracking these things today, this is just not a tornado setup for us. We really haven't seen anything in this line that even made us at one time question whether there was a tornado in this thing. What do you got there, Dennis?
And by the way, talking about big changes, power outages now, Pinellas County, 5,200 people are without power.
That's a big jump.
But they're still able to watch us on their phones, on their app right now. So there is that. Citrus County, 2,800. Highlands, 1,500. Polk County, 1,100. Hernando County, 500. And Pasco County, 900. So doing the math in my head real quick, 895, 10,6, 11,1, 12,000 people without power in the Bay Area from this last report. And I wouldn't be surprised if that number extends a little bit, especially in Manatee County. Do we still have that shot from the mainsail? Because that was a pretty impressive shot as that line was clearly coming on in. So if
can't see the Sunshine Skyway behind you either, by the way, on that FDOT camera.
Oh yeah, with that coming on in. So again, go ahead and if you want to continue tracking.
Yeah, so there's the mainsail right now. You see the palm trees; they're all pointed away from the beach. Got that strong onshore flow. The surf is up. High surf advisory up today. Rip current warnings as well. Definitely not a day to get in the water, just in case you were thinking, no, please don't. This is not a time to get out to the beach to watch the storm either.
There's been people saying about surfing. Surf's up. I'm like,
oh,
yeah,
no.
Especially the rip current issue.
Yeah, this is really, so we're getting you wind reports. All right, so this is going to be now, this is Sunshine Skyway Fishing Pier. 56-mile-an-hour winds. A new one coming in. This is going to be out over the bay. This is going to be at the Tampa Bay cutoff there. Reported at 46-knot wind gusts. That's 53 miles an hour. This is so consistent. I mean, everywhere this line has been, 50 to 55-mile-an-hour wind gusts through and through. From Pasco, Pinellas, now getting into Hillsboro and Manatee, we're getting 50-mile-an-hour winds. So Bradenton, right now, downtown, you're getting that heavy thunderstorm. It's overhead, and it's moving toward the east-northeast. This is going to track into Polk County, Parrish, Waimama, Willow Oak, and Bartow. Between now and 3:30, you've got a chance to see some gusty winds.
I was going to say, a lot of people are asking about eastern Polk County as well, just because they haven't had anything yet. So, I mean, I guess ultimately, in terms of tracking, you know, they've already had that line come through that we thought was pretty interesting because it wasn't the main line.
No, and we had strong winds reported in this, and a lot of lightning, Dennis, too, now headed out toward the East Coast. I think if there is another strong segment, maybe down here towards Sarasota, we could potentially get some wind gusts. This is an area that really hasn't seen much in the last couple of hours. So, yeah, let's click on the info button, and then you can just click right on that storm track, and it should give us a track. So Sarasota Beach, 223, Siesta Key, that would be, I guess, 223, and over towards the campground there by 224.
Still hardly any hail issues,
No.
which I guess normally we don't see hail. I've lived in this area 30 years. I've seen hail once. So, I mean, it's pretty rare to have it. And with this kind of a setup, there was a lot of talk, especially northern counties, but it just so far has not materialized at all.
No, it's just been a lot of heavy rain and a consistent storm that's producing 50 to 55-mile-an-hour wind gusts from Pasco all the way down to Sarasota. So Sarasota County from the airport all the way down 75 to Venice. Give it the next 20 minutes or so, you're going to see a really heavy rain band move through and some gusty winds.
So I guess the question would be, what about for folks in Lakeland and Bartow and Haines City and Lake Wales and all of Polk County? Will this be a major issue? It won't, but I wouldn't be surprised if this hangs together pretty much the way that it is now. And clearly that's what the folks at the Storm Prediction Center or the local Weather Service office think, because they've issued that severe thunderstorm watch for those areas. So in the scheme of things, a severe thunderstorm watch is less threatening than a tornado watch.
Correct.
And you can make the argument that we maybe should have been in a severe thunderstorm watch all the time.
I think what they're looking at is, the folks at the Storm Prediction Center that issue these watches, they don't just issue them willy-nilly. They get graded on them. They look back on the reports, and when you issue a tornado watch, there better be some amount of tornadoes in that area, because when you issue a watch, it gets folks moving. It gets emergency management moving. Folks take action. So you want to make sure that you're sending the right information out there. So the fact that they're issuing that severe thunderstorm watch makes me think that they probably think obviously, we are not going to verify in terms of that tornado watch here in our area.
So Anna Maria Island, which is what we were showing at the mainsail, 53 mile an hour winds. Yeah, and I think it's interesting, too, because when these are issued by the Storm Prediction Center, they can actually, the local folks, the local Mets can go in and tweak it and make changes themselves. And the meteorologists at Ruskin have been around a long time, and they're the best of the best. So very often there's that interaction. There's the conversation between Norman, Oklahoma, the SPC, and our local people, and say, what do you think? And they rely on the folks that have lived there and worked here for a long time, which is a great relationship. They do an amazing job.
And I bet our local folks are looking at this and seeing what we're seeing is that, we're going to get some wind, but tornadoes are not very likely with some of these storms that are popping up. So 50, I mean, it's so consistent. 52, 53, 54, 56. It's just been which, by the way, officially, all these strong wind reports are just below severe limits. So a 53-mile wind gust, 58 is the cutoff is where its severe thunderstorm starts. Skyway. So that's why the bridge is closed. I mean, if you were to be up there, you're going to see some really strong crosswinds.
And I mean, all you got to do is zoom in on this area here. Clearly, at this point, that's where the heaviest wind was, right through our core areas, from Pinellas County in through western Hillsboro County and Manatee County. Now, Pinellas, the worst is over. It's gone. Manatee, you're still in it, and they're still going to continue to see, some of this, as is Sarasota County. This is showing a hail marker again. That was actually the cell that was showing a half-inch hail about a half hour ago. So I'll be curious if anybody in Bradenton or anywhere in Manatee County, I'll go check the Facebook feed too, if you're seeing any hail. Because again, at this point, we have not seen any. If
you've seen any of it anywhere in the area, let us know. That's something, we've seen these hail markers pop up along the line with the radar saying, there could be some hail in here, but the Weather Service hasn't passed along any of those to us. So if you're on the Facebook page, if you're watching this feed on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, or our website, check out Dennis's Facebook page, because we're looking for your reports, and that's where you can also drop off some of your questions, some of your comments. If there are areas you want us to look at, we'll be glad to do so. Citrus and Hernando County, happy to say that the worst of it is now through. Just rain. We're now dealing with lightning and rain, which the lightning, you got to take that seriously. That's all you're getting. Pasco, you are really doing a nice job clearing out. The heaviest of the weather now, Dade City and Zephyr Hills. I would give this another 15 minutes, and it's going to be out of here. West toward the coast of Zephyr Hills, Newport Richey, Hudson, Lutz, Lando Lakes, Elfers, steady rain, but not severe. Pinellas County, you're done with the severe weather as well. It's a steady rain. Hillsboro, you're kind of in the thick of things. From 275 west toward the coast, it's a steady rain. The stronger winds, the heavier rain, coming into Plant City now. It's coming into Brandon, Riverview. You're getting the heavy downpours. Waimama, Fishhawk, down to Ellington Parish. That's where the heaviest of the rain is. Farther south, it's all along 75 now through Manatee County, just about to the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. Sarasota, you've got a few more minutes before it reaches you. Nothing going on right now in DeSoto and Hardee County.
By the way, just so I want you to know, Jessica's eating chocolate pecan pie. It helps her take the edge off.
Oh, yeah,
So
that would really help me too.
So there you go.
Yeah. What's our address? 4046 North Himes Avenue? Yeah. Pack it up, Jessica. Send it our way.
You know, we're getting
Don't do it, please.
a ton of reports, but actually, wait a minute. Okay, so I'm getting a report that there was some pea-sized hail near Lake Magdalene.
Okay.
But it doesn't say when it happened. So that's really the only report that we've had of any kind of hail.
I'm getting, we're getting a little marker here near Polk City and Polk County. Some of these cells out ahead of the main line, they've been a little stronger at times. So 0.2 of an inch size hail, basically. Citrus Ridge, this is over towards the Hancock Recreational Area, and then it's going to head up towards the Horizon West Sportsplex Park. That's going to be really out towards Orlando and no longer a concern for Polk County. We are getting a little downpour around Lakeland. This is not the main line. It's just popped up out ahead of it. And I can put this into motion. You can kind of see we're seeing these little cells pop out ahead of the main line. We were seeing activity in eastern Polk. That's cleared out, and it's now headed over towards the Melbourne area, over towards Palm Bay. Highlands County, wow, it's just been raining here. And, I wonder, with all this rain that we've seen in Highlands, whether maybe the atmosphere has been a little worked over in Highlands. So if we do get this main line approaching Sebring and Lake Placid, I wonder if we'll see some weakening with it. Arcadia, like I said, Highway 17 all the way up into Bartow, we're all quiet. You're still waiting for these storms. And by the way, Arcadia, Zolfo Springs, you're going to be waiting for quite some time. I can try to do a storm track on this all the way out from the edge. Let's see if I can take this all the way over to Wauchula. Let me try this one more time. The farther I go with this, the trickier it gets. All right, we got this one. All right, so the Wauchula area, 352 if it continues to move at 35 miles an hour. It may be moving a little faster, so it may be 330, but you're still talking about an hour to an hour and 10 minutes before Wauchula even has to deal with the rain that is approaching Sarasota County right now. So this is just beginning for our folks down south, while folks to the north, Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, Eastlake, you're getting the heaviest of the rain right now. Lakeland getting some downpours over towards Zephyr Hills and Dade City, seeing it as well. Anything you want to report there, Dennis?
Yeah, Janet broke into the Easter candy. So that's really bad news right
Janet.
there. It is. I do want to
this line is not good for our health.
I do want to mention Eastern Pasco because a lot of folks have been asking about the Wesley Chapel area and about areas.
Okay.
And there's, truthfully, there's some decent lightning on the backside here. So from Dade City, Zephyr Hills, Wesley Chapel, you're pretty much getting it right now. Now, you're going to say this doesn't feel any different or any worse from an afternoon storm in the summer, and you'd be right. Because that's a pretty good indicator of what we've got right now. But 40, 50 mile an hour winds are still something that we have to keep our eyes on, that we've had reports of trees down. But overall, are we going to look back and say this was a widespread severe event? No. And you know what? We weren't saying it was either.
No.
I mean, from the beginning, we kind of figured this would be a lot of rain, some heavy winds, and we were saying the possibility of a quick spin-up tornado. So far, we haven't even seen that.
No,
that's great news.
And not even the possibility of it in most of these areas, Dennis. And you see, in Pasco County, if you're west of 75, you're basically out of it.
Yeah. It's
so,
raining. And
yeah,
it's going to rain for
raining,
another couple
and there's
hours.
a lot of lightning. So, don't head outside because the worst part of it is over. Down here to the northern, to the outlets, and you head down towards Bush, Fowler, the USF area, Busch Gardens. The rides are not running, I suspect, at Busch
and that's
Gardens
a shame
right now.
because the new ride was opening up today. Tigris, is that what it
Tigris,
was?
yeah, we got the video. Our Sean Daly got to ride it yesterday. It's on abcactionnews.com. You got to check it out.
But this is clearly where the heaviest wind was. All of those markers where the wind's blowing, those are pretty much 50 to 60-mile-an-hour wind reports.
We've seen a couple more pop up here. They just keep filling in. So this one's going to be Tampa. Okay.
59.
That's severe now. The Davis Island Yacht Club. So that's out there by the dog park on Davis Island. That's a pretty strong wind gust.
And that happened at 1:58. So 14 minutes ago, they had that. And you're right. I mean, this seems to be the area where most of the and you know what? That's the same area that we were looking at that was offshore, right?
Offshore,
that
moving southwest. We were tracking it toward Tampa, and it took a while. It feels like it took an hour to get into the metro area. I got another little report there. Okay, so now they're starting. It's also probably impacting a more densely populated area, so it's easy to get these.
So here's a tree on a car at a golf course. So 4. I mean, you know, that's the kind of thing. I mean, I'm assuming that the person probably was out golfing, or maybe not, out with the thunderstorms,
I hope they were
right?
not golfing.
Yeah. So,
but for that person, they want us to be on and talking about this
because it's a big thing.
This is a big impact on their life.
So everything that was here, and by the way, these were issued, a half hour, 45 minutes ago. Everything is kind of moving off to the east. So from Tampa down to Riverview, over to Ruskin, Brandon, Seffner, Dover, all of that area, you're pretty much in the thick of it right now. And when we say thick of it, we're saying 50-mile-an-hour winds, give or take.
A strong summertime, we still got the info box, thunderstorm. New severe thunderstorm warning. No surprise, we've taken the old one and we've pushed it east. So now Hillsboro, Manatee, Polk, and Sarasota.
Now, who's out of the woods? Who's no longer in that watch box? Have they cut back the backside at all yet?
Let me walk over to the computer. Let's pull up that data. Let's take off some of the information that we're looking at in terms of the radar. We'll turn everything off.
They will go in and
so these are your warnings.
So look, they've cut this out. So if you live in the western half of Hernando, Citrus County no longer in a watch box. The western half of Hernando no longer in a watch box. The western third from, say, Land O'Lakes, Trinity, Elfers, west, no longer in a watch box. Pinellas County should be out of it entirely. They're not yet, but they should be. And then the bulk of the area is Hillsboro County right now, pretty much up through eastern Pasco County and up through Sumter County. That's the area getting most of it as it all continues to move east. So if you live outside of Manatee County, if you live from I-4 north and west of I-75, you are out of the woods. I mean, I think that's probably the best way to describe it. So, and clearly you can see that with the radar. But yeah, we've had a decent number of wind reports of 50 to 55 miles an hour. So that's significant. That's halfway between a tropical storm and a hurricane. So remember, hurricane's about 75 and tropical storm's about 40. So we're almost about halfway there in some of these spots. And the Skyway is still closed as we look over
still
at
can't
the
see
picture.
it.
Do we have any other cams going on out there, folks, or is the live drive still out? Because last time we were looking at the live drive, it was showing some flooding. And coastal flooding, there has been a coastal flooding issue going on with this because a couple of reasons. We happen to be at high tide, coming up on high tide, and it's an unusually higher tide for the month. All right, so we've got a live drive where we're actually heading towards St. Pete, and there it is. I mean, traffic's still moving. I mean, it's no different than any typical summer day, right? I mean, that has the same look of an afternoon thunderstorm, I guess, minus all the lightning that we see. But regardless, people are moving around, and there's no reason to think you can't. I've had a lot of people say, should I not travel tonight? No, you'll be fine. I mean, if you live in an area where the worst of it comes through, you might want to give yourself a 20-minute break. Other than that, we're Floridians. We're used to this. We're used to these. Greg mentioned this a couple of minutes ago. I mean, we kind of get heavier rain here than any place else, and it's always fun when new people move down here and they see our thunderstorms for the first time and they see our rain and they think they know what it is, but you don't. Florida is just another animal in itself, and obviously traffic moving pretty good, but anywhere from the west side of this red right there, the worst is over. Still going to be raining. In fact, truthfully, the rain is just about over in coastal Citrus County. It will be over in about 20 minutes along the coast in Hernando and Pasco. So I'd say by about 4 o'clock, the entire rain area will have moved through the majority of our viewing area. So here's some good news. It probably won't be a huge deal for rush hour, at least for Tampa. It'll still be lingering in Lakeland and areas off to the east and south. St. Pete will also be over. But all those little blue circles you see right there, those are all wind reports of about 50 to 55 miles an hour. And then you still see the severe thunderstorm watch now. In fact, Greg, did they cancel the tornado watch for the entire area?
Let me check right now.
My guess is I don't know for a fact, but
I can actually pull that up. Let's see if we can pull that
would
up.
be significant if they did.
So we'll take off all this information
I'm
here.
not seeing. No.
Let me take the warnings out too. So they've continued the counties. So Pinellas, Hillsboro, Pasco, and Hernando are still under a tornado watch.
So.
But you're basically, once that line moves through, the tornado threat is done. I mean, you're just not, the conditions change in a way where a tornado is basically almost not possible once that initial line of rain moves through. So it may be raining in Newport Richey and Clearwater, but the tornado conditions, it's also much cooler.
I kind of thought they might replace the tornado watch just with that severe thunderstorm warning, but apparently not. So regardless, we continue to look at the heaviest right on through Tampa, east of Tampa from Orient Park, up toward New Tampa area, and back toward Dover, Seffner, Valrico, Plant City. We haven't mentioned Plant City yet. You're getting this, or you're just about to get this. In fact, let's go ahead and zoom in. We usually talk about Plant City a lot, and we just haven't mentioned it because you haven't had anything yet. But now you are. There you are. And there's Fishhawk as well. From Ruskin over to downtown, it's all moving east. Still a couple of markers showing the possibility of a bit of hail. Lakeland, in about 20 or 30 minutes. But truthfully, folks, when we look at what we're looking at right now, I mean, you can look at this and say, okay, there was a chance we had when the alerts went off at around 11 o'clock, tornado watch, that catches your attention because all of a sudden, is this going to be worse than they were saying? Well, ultimately, this is pretty much playing out the way that we were thinking. Line of strong storms, have not had any reports of any tornadoes. Doubt that we will at this point. Hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed if I didn't jinx that. But I still think the areas from Bradenton down to Sarasota, Siesta Key, right around anywhere from coastal Manatee and Sarasota County, there's still some decent rain and some decent wind. I mean, that's not the fact we just reported that there was a tree down on a car at a golf course, so there's still plenty of energy. I mean, you get a 50 or 60 mile an hour wind gust, that can topple a lot of trees. Greg?
Yeah, I'm looking, I'm just checking the traffic here. This is I-4 at Kingsway. It's in Doppler, guys, right now. And this is really, the biggest impact from this storm right now. It's coming up on Friday afternoon. We've got a holiday weekend. Passover began today. Easter's on Sunday. A lot of folks are probably trying to get out of town early. Your kids are off of school. If you didn't leave this morning, maybe you're heading out this afternoon. And what we're seeing is just very heavy rain in I-4 in the traffic. This is looking eastbound now out of Tampa. Man, this drive, it is always such a toss-up. It's either 50 minutes to Orlando or it's an hour and 55 minutes. I mean, take your pick on any day. And with this rain, it is not helping. And I'm looking at some of the reports. I-4 is basically stop and go right through Plant City, right into Lakeland. And as this rain gets farther east, the conditions on I-4 are just going to get worse. And you see the rain. I mean, the visibility here, just looking at this shot live from the FDOT camera, it's actually gotten worse in the last 2 to 3 minutes as these waves of heavy rain are moving through right now. And you're seeing them on the radar, Dennis.
Yeah, we are. I mean, looking at some storm tracking, because this is always one of the best ways to help folks bring it back to their neighborhood. How and what time is this going to actually impact you directly? And some of the heaviest weather that we're looking at as we put in the math and figure out exact timing when it's going to arrive, it looks like Plant City pretty much right within the next couple of minutes. Winston 248, Lakeland 254, Winter Haven. Several folks have mentioned asking about Winter Haven on Facebook. 317, Haines City at 329. We've also got the area down south. And again, really what we're looking at is this entire area is heading from the west to east. So by the time it's all said and done, I don't think anybody's going to have not seen a decent amount of rain out of this. We're talking the possibility maybe of about an inch across most area. But I'll tell you, I want to scroll down a little bit down here because if you look down south, okay, I mean, there's still some pretty nasty storms.
There's a lot of lightning.
I mean, there is. Now, that's going to be south of most of our area, probably Punta Gorda. But I know we sometimes have viewers, and for that matter, now that we're streaming, we might very well have folks in Punta Gorda or Naples or Fort Myers and areas down there. That is very heavy. I mean, and that there is certainly the possibility that some of these, at the very least, look at Sarasota. I mean, you're going to get the heaviest weather in the next half hour, 45 minutes, and there's quite a bit of lightning there as well, and that's where the severe thunderstorm warning obviously extends and probably will be continued. But at this point, still not seeing any rotation, and boy, of all the things that we talk about, tornadoes are the thing that freak people out in our area more than anything, I think, because you just never see them coming, right? A hurricane, as scary as they are, you see them coming, you have an opportunity to do something, to evacuate or whatever. Tornadoes can form like that, but fortunately for our area, usually the tornadoes are extremely small, EF zeros, 70 miles an hour, usually very, very narrow, and typically we don't see a lot of damage with tornadoes. And luckily, so far, at least, all of our damage that we've had has been minimal, but it's been just along with straight line winds.
Yeah, 55-mile-an-hour wind gust, Vinoy Park, that was right there in downtown St. Pete. Winter Haven, I mean, another report out of Polk County, very large oak limbs down. That is ahead of the main line, Dennis. That was with one of those showers. It happened at 2:04, so 18 minutes ago or so, we got that. And then over towards Dunedin in Pinellas County, wind report gust to about 43 miles per hour. So consistent 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We've seen reports of a lot of trees and tree limbs down. One report of a tree down on a car. That was over in the Tampa area in Hillsboro County at Rogers Park Golf Course. That's when we saw some of that tree being knocked down by some stronger winds. What's new, Dennis?
New power outage updates. Pinellas County from 5,200 now down to 4,600.
Okay.
So since last report, 600 people have restored power. Pasco has 2,500, so that's up. And that makes sense because we were getting a lot of people on Facebook saying that there were power outages. Hernando County, still 2,200 people without power. Citrus County, 1,900 people without power. Highlands, 1,800. And Polk County is now improving. They're at 200 power outages.
Interestingly enough, there's that Winter Haven report right here on the radar. Over the last hour, there has been no rain there. So this wind report could be from just regular non-thunderstorm winds is what we could be seeing here. And that would be consistent with some of the reports we've been getting all afternoon out of Polk County. Is there have been showers around, a couple of lightning strikes and some thunder, but none of it really severe. It's just been strong system winds. And actually looking at this line, let's actually pan over. Looking at this thing, that's a little close to the radar, so maybe, doesn't look as impressive as it would. It looks like it's kind of breaking up to me. I mean, we're definitely not seeing as much lightning on the leading edge of this as we did earlier when it was coming into Pinellas County. So we may be really getting this thing to kind of weaken here into eastern and southern Hillsboro as it enters Polk. So I know there's a severe thunderstorm warning for Polk County right now. Lakeland, Bartow, Fort Meade, Polk City, you're in it. But looking at the intensity of this, maybe not as bad as it was just about an hour ago. Let's take a look at the wind data here. There are some gusty winds in here. We'll put this into motion. I don't see anything that really stands out as being extremely dangerous. I think what we're seeing here is probably on the order of what we've seen in the past hour, and that's been wind gusts of 45 to 55 miles an hour. Plant City, you're kind of in the middle of it right now. We're getting heavy rain. I'm going to peek over. I-4 camera still showing that heavy rain right now. Traffic is moving. Luckily, there you see it on the far side of the screen, we've seen relatively light traffic. Thankfully, today's Good Friday. We've had kids off at school for Easter and Passover, and that's really reduced the amount of cars on the road and probably a lot of awareness of this line of thunderstorms moving through later on in the afternoon. Take you down south. This is where the heaviest storms are right now. They're just pushing into Manatee and Sarasota County at this moment. Severe thunderstorm warning continues. A couple of cells that our radar is picking up as being maybe a little bit more intense. So I'm going to take you in. This is Bradenton. Both 41 and 75 are getting very heavy rain. 75 is just getting into it. So if you know someone that's traveling on 75 from Sarasota heading back over towards Bradenton, the heavy rain has yet to reach the 75 corridor. We'll pan over here and take you over towards that storm. Let's do a storm track on it. So we'll take a look at the storm that's coming up towards the Bradenton-Sarasota Airport. There you see some of the places that could be impacted. Coolidge Park by 2:30, the Siesta Key area by 2:32. It's moving fast. The radar is tracking the center of that storm northeast at 55. That kind of tells you some of the winds that are in this storm. Farther south, severe thunderstorm warning here continues. Let's clear this out and pan down to the south. Just getting the heaviest of the weather moving through Sarasota, down to Osprey, over towards Venice. You're still a few minutes away, and this is eventually going to impact Northport, Englewood, and down towards Port Charlotte as well.
And I think what we're going to do is, you know, we started this stream when there was a tornado watch, when we felt as though there was kind of a possible threat to the overall area. We're coming up now on what appears to just be kind of like our summertime thunderstorms. The threat is significantly less. So I think in the next couple of minutes, what we're going to probably end up doing is go ahead and stop this part of our stream, letting us get ready for the newscast per se. And at the same time, you'll still be able to watch live radar as well as the information that pops on this same stream, as well as on Facebook, as well as on other options. I may keep the Facebook Live going for a couple of minutes thereafter. But what we want to make sure that if for whatever reason something starts to get unexpectedly rough, we'll jump right back on. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Dennis, overall, just looking at this large, wide radar view, this is a different line than it was along the coast. When this was coming in along the coast, it was intense, and we did get a lot of reports of 50, 55 mile an hour winds. What we're seeing now, the raggedy nature of some of this line, especially now from Polk County down into eastern and southern Hillsboro, this is not the same intensity system. The other big story is the amount of lightning has really decreased. What that tells us, there's a lot less upward motion in these storms. These storms are not as intense as they were just about an hour ago, which is certainly good news. We're going to see a lot of rain out of this, so just be careful driving around. You know what neighborhoods don't drain well. Be careful in that sense, and be careful because of the lightning. But I think you're right. I think we can wind this down. We're going to post information on social media as the warnings come out. But as Floridians, this is going to be something that I think you're very familiar with. And if you're not, you're going to get a good sample of it in about a month and a half or so, every single day.
You know what? and it's a new age now. I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of used to, you at home, you're used to us breaking in and doing continuous coverage when things are really, really terrible. But our mindset is now, why not? We're here. There's a nice line of storms coming through. You're looking for information. You're checking your app on your phone. 9 times out of 10, your weather app might not be showing what's happening in your neighborhood. So our goal is, why not be here? I mean, and so we spent the last 3 hours doing that for you. Hopefully it was helpful for some folks. Again, as Greg said, we will be here, and we're going to go ahead and keep streaming the information in terms of radar, and if anything pops, we'll be sure to join us. But hopefully this is new for us, this whole experience of multi-platform, whether Facebook and getting feedback instantly. Keep it coming. So if there's something that we did that was helpful, let us know. If there's something we did that wasn't helpful or we wanted more of, please let us know that, because ultimately that's kind of what our goal is, to get everybody across.
Nicely, very nicely.
Well, we can't always depend on that. It goes with the territory. So, but again, thank you very much. There's still some stuff out there. Again, let's don't minimize Bradenton down to Sarasota, but as Greg mentioned, it's kind of like what we get in the summertime. So we're going to go ahead and end the stream. Thanks for joining. We will be here at 4 o'clock, obviously, live on ABC Action News at 4. We'll be on broadcast, not just streaming. And also, anytime anything breaks, we've got you covered on Roku, on Storm Shield, on anything where ABC Action News app is available. So thanks for stopping by, and we will see you guys soon.